Let's underscore this also, though, in terms of why it didn't necessarily work out for Pence. We have a focus group that CNN actually did immediately after the debate in Iowa. So let's all take a listen to that about who they said actually won the debate.
Here's what I want to ask you about. Who you thought did the best during this debate? Basically, who do you think won the debate? I'm going to do it in alphabetical order to be fair. Anyone think Doug Burgum did the best? That's 0. Anyone think Chris Christie did the best? He certainly got most of the airtime. A lot of the airtime, not most of the airtime. How about Ron DeSantis? How many of you think Ron DeSantis is the best? That's 2 people. How about Nikki Haley? 1, 2, 3, 4 people. Asa Hutchinson? Mike Pence? 0. Vivek Ramaswamy? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Tim Scott? Okay, so this panel here thinks Ramaswamy won the debate.
So I personally really like that focus group because it matches up with my winners and losers. Number 1 top winner was Vivek, and number 2, I actually thought Nikki Haley of the also rans did herself some favors, in particular in her exchange with Vivek on Ukraine, where she actually got the crowd behind her. I thought it was the one moment where Vivek was really kind of on his heels and where she got the better of him in that exchange. But Kyle, what are your overall thoughts?
So, like I said, I think Ramaswamy came out of the gates hard and he was doing well early on. I think he fell off massively. He had a number of lines where he got very clearly booed. His thing on climate change, calling it a hoax. I think on the issue of Ukraine, regardless of what you think of the substance, I think Nikki Haley got the better of him on that. I even think Mike Pence got the better of him on that. There were moments where he just sort of faded into the background. He was shining bright and then he sort of faded into the background. So I don't agree with you on that at all. My biggest winners, I agree with you on Nikki Haley. I think she did way better than anybody expected.
Yeah, she beat the bar.
But I also think, and you'll definitely have an issue with this one, I actually think DeSantis had a way better debate than I was expecting. And I watched it twice. And when I went back and I listened, there was a number of lines where he got really loud applause. So nobody laid a glove on him and he was able to get his talking points out. He got really loud applause. And I think that he comes out of this looking the best, to be honest.
What do you think?
I actually agree completely with that point because, again, I think all he needed to do, he knows that this debate is not going to make a huge dent in the polls. That's actually probably one of the most important things, predicates that you could come into that debate as a candidate thinking, unless you're Vivek, unless you're the freshman in that analogy that I'm not torturing. But I think DeSantis just needed to be there. He needed to not have any moments where he gets dunked on, and he didn't need to have moments where he dunks on other people. He just needed to be solid because this debate is not going to change a 40-point lead. That's going to have to be done on the ground in Iowa.
Well, it's sad that you're both wrong.
I thought Jonah Hill won the debate.
Something we can all agree on.
Yes.
No, so here's my analysis with DeSantis. I agree that I thought he did fine. I didn't think he had any big mess ups. I thought I had some answers that were kind of weaselly politician, but whatever. They all have those moments, right? I thought he was totally solid. And I expected him. I put him as one of my predictions as a winner going in because the bar has been set so low for him with all of the let's find every awkward moment we possibly can of Ron DeSantis and convince people that he is the weirdest human being on planet Earth. And he's a little weird, but he's not the weirdest human being on planet Earth. So I do think that he exceeded the bar. I thought he was perfectly solid. But if you're Ron DeSantis and you were the guy that was tied with Trump in the polls for a while, that coming out of the midterms, you were the winner, you were putting points on the board, check the score or whatever. For you to lose the spotlight to Vivek Ramaswamy, for you to get outshone by Nikki Haley, that's a big loss. And I think that his polling will probably go down just because this is with this divided field. If you have other people who are sucking up oxygen and getting attention, it's got to come from somewhere. It's probably not coming mostly from Trump. And so that's why I think overall, in some ways, he was the biggest loser because he's so diminished from where he used to be.
Go ahead,
You
Kyle.
can't hold his past against him. The question is whether or not he won that particular.
Geographic center, Story County, Iowa, where we're going to tell you the story of this Republican debate from the vantage point of 15 loyal Story County Republicans, all a member of the Story County Republican Club, or the Young Republicans of Iowa. Thank you for letting us be here with you today to watch the debate. Thank you, everybody. All right. We watched all 2 hours very carefully. The first question I want to ask all of you, do you think this debate was good for the Republican Party? Raise your hand if you do. 15 people. Looks like 13 raised their hand. You two did not think it was good for the party?
No,
Why not, Jim?
it brought up a lot more division and stuff, but I still think it was worth the time.
Okay, you thought it was good for the party, though.
Yes, so it was great for the party. Great to have a conversation with Iowans and people across the United States to see who our next leader will be for the Republican Party.
Okay, of these 15 people, 14 say they're still undecided at this point. Jim, who we just talked to, is the only one who's not. He says he's ready to vote for Trump right now. And here's what I want to ask you about who you thought did the best during this debate. Basically, who do you think won the debate? I'm going to do it in alphabetical order to be fair. Anyone think Doug Burgum did the best? That's 0. Anyone think Chris Christie did the best? He certainly got most of the airtime. A lot of the airtime, not most of the airtime. How about Ron DeSantis? How many of you think Ron DeSantis did the best? That's 2 people. How about Nikki Haley? 1, 2, 3, 4 people. Asa Hutchinson? Mike Pence? 0. Vivek Ramaswamy? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Tim Scott? Okay, so this panel here thinks Ramaswamy won the debate. Tell me why you think he won the debate.
I was reminded of the time when Vivek was talking about the national identity situation. And I know Pence brought up that that wasn't really an issue, but I think it was a generational problem because Vivek understands that young folks don't really understand that people my age don't really love America. And if you don't love it, you can't protect it. And I think if we fix that problem, then people will, as a natural byproduct, want to protect America and what it stands for.
This guy sitting next to you is the mayor of Nevada, the town that we're in. This is Brett Barker. Mayor, you picked Nikki Haley. She came in second place in our informal, non-scientific poll here. Tell me why you think she'd win.
Well, I think out of all the candidates, she really had moments that stood out. I don't think she had moments that harmed her. And she came across as poised and confident and prepared. And I think out of the candidates, I think she helped herself the most tonight.
Chris Christie talked a lot. He was anti-Trump. Tell me why you didn't like what Chris Christie had to say.
He was just argumentative pretty much and out after Trump.
You don't think there was any logic to what he said, though?
I think it was a lot of revenge.
A lot of revenge. Okay. What do you think, any of you, was the big moment of this debate? Any of you have a big moment in mind? This gentleman right here, I'm going to walk over to you. Excuse my reach, Jim. Sorry about that.
Well, for me, it was when DeSantis let Vivek get to his right on Ukraine. And if DeSantis' whole goal here is to beat Trump, he's going to have to meet Trump on that issue. And so ultimately, if DeSantis is willing to do that, then I see Vivek as the clear winner there.
So does anyone here, as I was saying, 14 of you were undecided when this started. Are any of you, after one debate, closer to saying, I know who I'm going to vote for? Raise your hand if you're a little bit closer. This gentleman right here, tell me who you're closer to voting for or supporting in the Iowa caucuses.
There's a few, probably Nikki Haley and Donald Trump. And then also Vivek Ramaswamy. I think that he kind of went in there as a bulldog a little bit, and I don't think that's a bad thing.
Who else raised their hand about that? This gentleman right here. Once again, excuse me. Who are you closer to supporting in the caucuses?
So for me, I'm closer to Vivek. I mean, just the more and more I've heard of this guy, I'm one of the people, I knew nothing about him, didn't even know he existed, thought he had a funny name. Then the more and more I've heard of this guy, the more it's like he has good opinions, he has good policies. He says a lot of what he believes, and he's willing to discuss that with people if they disagree with him, and I really respect that.
Let me ask you, I mean, Chris Christie and Mike Pence had quibbles with him. They thought he was a little programmed. Does that mean anything to you that they said that?
I don't know. I feel like Chris Christie especially is just kind of there to be a human wrecking ball and just kind of knock people out of the race.
This gentleman was nodding his head. Did you think so?
Yeah, I honestly didn't know too much about Vivek before. I know he's flip-flopped on a couple issues thus far. I appreciated him getting into it with both Pence as well as Chris Christie because I thought they made him look kind of fake and kind of just like he wants to go with whatever the top polling issue is. That's what he wants to do at the time.
Final question for you, and this man wasn't at the debate. His name is Donald Trump. So we wanted to devote most of our time to the people who were at the debate. But how many of you think Donald Trump hurt himself by not being part of this debate? Raise your hand, please. 1, 2, 3, 4. How many of you think he helped himself by not being at the debate? Most of you. Why do you think he helped himself? And this is Deborah. She's the leader of the Young Republicans here, the chapter here, the Iowa Young Republicans. Tell me why you think he helped himself.
I think he helped himself just because he wasn't able to say anything that people would use against him in the general election. And he's able to kind of run off his record and not worry about being seen as bombastic or something negative.
Thank you, Deborah. And thank you, all of you, for talking to us. We really appreciate watching this with you.
George, I'd like to turn to the big headline of the week, obviously in Atlanta and even across the nation, the RICO indictments of President Trump and others for the alleged false elector plot.
Show that I could talk. And it's true. I love Sister Sabby. I love Brother Nick and CJ. I love Black Power Media. And I love Brother Jordan. And I love Brother Kit. I mean, there's a whole group of you all who be truth tellers in a significant way. I may have left some of them out, but those are the ones that I think about. But I must say, man, it's something about Tim Black, though, man. It's something about Brother Tim Black. I don't know if it's Maryland. I know the great Maulana Kareem come out of Maryland. I know Frederick Douglass come out of Maryland. I don't know what it is about the soil, but it's that deep, deep love for the people. And see, we don't love Black people in order for Black people to love us back. This ain't no quote transactional thing. We love Black people because they're worthy of being loved. And when you love folk, you respect them, you protect them, but you also correct them, which means it's not about popularity, it's about integrity.
Well, brother Dr. West, I want to just say, since you brought this up, that I think it's about time and past time, actually, that all those folks that you mentioned, if we have any issues, any concerns, any bad blood at all, we need to put that behind us. I want to be the first to extend my hand and say, we had some disagreements in the past, but we got bigger things on the horizon. We got bigger issues that we need to confront. And Sister Sabby, brothers at Black Power, I don't think I ever had an issue with them, but the Revolutionary Blackout with Nick and them, and of course, Jordan, we've spoken. Hey, man, anything that I can do to move this conversation forward, to help empower the people, let's do it. And I accept any responsibility for past deeds. Let's move forward together, man. And I salute you all in the fight for truth and justice.
I thought I would play that, and welcome to a special edition of Straight Outta Politics. I'm your host for today. I'm CJ. I'm going to pause it here. I might play it one more time. Hang on a second for it
show that I
update there. But yeah, that happened. Was it yesterday? This happened yesterday. This news with Tim Black, and we clipped it. I'm almost sure this was yesterday. If not yesterday, it was the day before. We clipped it and uploaded it to Twitter and also uploaded it to YouTube for everybody to see. And then I'm playing it here as part of our introductory videos. I hope you guys like how we're playing those little videos while you wait for us to get started. We thought that, it's a good idea to sort of have some sort of entertainment while you're waiting, or at least some sort of video footage while you're waiting for us to get started. We do have a couple of special guests joining us today. They'll be joining us in a few minutes. I didn't get confirmation for the second one, so I only want to mention one for now. So Comrade Misty will be joining us in a few minutes to talk about a couple of things, and I'm going to throw up the graphics so we can see what today's topics are about. So here is the graphic for today. 1 second here. And well, I'll read what the segments are called, and then we can kind of talk about them in a second. But the first segment, you see Vivek is the centerpiece of this thumbnail. And Vivek Ramaswamy, that's spelled wrong. That should be Swami. And the GOP's Andrew Yang, and that's not my own. I heard it somewhere, and I thought it was sort of fitting. So I named the segment that. And then we have Saudi Arabia, along with other countries, but that's one of the big ones. Saudi Arabia joins BRICS officially in January 2024. That's why you see MBS and Xi Jinping there. And then we're going to talk about the killing, and some say murder, of the head of the Wagner group. He was killed in a plane crash along with everybody else on the plane. And then we'll finally get to the Tucker Carlson interview with Donald Trump. And then a couple of other smaller stories. We'll probably talk about the winners and losers of the debate a little more. And then also not pictured on the thumbnail, Karen Bass. Now, we all know Karen Bass on the national stage, but she is now the mayor of Los Angeles, and the LAPD and their union campaigned against her, and she's now giving them some more money. Isn't that nice? You guys like that? So we'll touch upon that story briefly, but I do see the guest of the hour is here, and everything's good. You ready to go, Misty? We're good? Okay. All right, so I'll bring on Misty now. You know her, and she is most commonly known as an honorary member of Revolutionary Blackout Network. This is Comrade Misty. What's up, Misty?
Hey, friends. It's good to be here. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Awesome. And we know your radio show is coming up. I would like to know who's on your show tonight.
Kyle Anzalone, actually. He is an incredible journalist. He does a lot of foreign policy reporting for antiwar.com and the Libertarian Institute. He also hosts the show Conflicts of Interest. He's a regular guest on my show. I love him. We always go through, he writes like at least an article a day, sometimes more. And so I love to have him on. We talk about foreign policy. So it's always good to have Kyle on.
Anything in particular, or are you just guys going to be talking about a bunch of foreign policy, or is it something?
Yeah, we'll probably talk about the Wagner group and Prigozhin. We'll probably talk about BRICS. We'll probably talk about he just wrote a recent article about the U.S. policy on basically sending an entire generation of Ukrainian men to sacrificing them at the altar of Western imperialism. So we'll probably talk about that a little bit. Yeah, I mean, just general foreign policy stuff. There's never a shortage of material.
Awesome. I think I know who you're talking about. I can't pitch the name, but I'm pretty sure I saw, because there is a couple of people that you have pretty regularly on your show. So I'm pretty sure I know who you're talking about.
It's been like Libertarian Week on my show for some reason. I don't know how it just kind of worked out that way. But I heard you mention that Ramaswamy is the Andrew Yang of this year. And that is actually where you probably heard that from. I don't know if you listened to my show or not, but you may have just actually saw it on Twitter too. But Brad Pierce, who's a libertarian, and he actually, I think he's going to start writing for the Libertarian Institute or antiwar.com. I'm not sure which one. But he just wrote an amazing article where he goes through all of the GOP candidates and breaks them down and kind of scores them based on their foreign policy. And he actually, in his article, he called him the Andrew Yang of this year's election. So.
Oh, maybe, like I said, like I was saying, like, I don't know where I heard that from. So it may have been there because I have been, listening. Because just like most of my politics, I'll have it like right now. I have a show on. I'll just have it in the background. I'm doing other stuff. So we'll check it out. But I do want to kind of jump right into it with the GOP debate, and more specifically about Vivek. And we'll just say R. I don't know how to say his last name.
Ramaswamy.
Ramaswamy. So thank you for that. But first, did you get a chance to see the debate?
No,
if you did, what are your thoughts? And if you haven't, what are some of the clips you've seen, and what is your overall reaction of the clips you've seen so far?
I thought when I think it was Ramaswamy that went after Chris Christie about being an MSNBC guy, and then Chris
Yeah, love
Christie
that one.
immediately ran to MSNBC this morning. I thought that was hilarious. Mike Pence actually showed a little bit of a personality, which was interesting. I wasn't expecting that. And I think that, I mean, the reason why I didn't watch it is because, as Whitney Webb said, it's all bullshit. Like it's all a show. None of it makes any amount of substantive difference. It's just a bunch of puppets on strings up there pretending and playing. It's a soap opera with psychopaths. So I don't really waste my time on that stuff. I mean, I will usually catch clips. I have to cover it obviously for my show. I have to talk about that kind of stuff. But it's an exercise in futility to waste your time on that sort of a thing. I mean, I understand why people do it, especially if you're in the independent media space. Obviously, it's something you probably have to talk about, but it's just a bunch of puppets on strings, and none of it makes any bit of difference whatsoever.
Yeah, this will absolutely drive you insane if you were doing this like as recreation, or you were doing this as like, part of your day as your news gathering sort of process. But when you're one of us, and Rome says this all the time, we are forced to watch this garbage.
Yeah.
Because we have to, because if we want to cover it. And I mean, it is doing, I don't know if we should call it God's work, but having to sit through some of this content in order to break it down for people to break down the propaganda, it is pretty. Sometimes I need the Pepto is basically what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's draining.
But
it is draining.
Let's get to this first clip, and this is actually the clip you just referred to. I think this is one of those popular clips.
Yeah.
Where he's talking about let me just play it and then we'll comment on the other side. It's about a minute long.
You raise your hand supporting. No, I'd like to get in and respond. Let's just speak the truth, okay? President Trump, I believe, was the best president of the 21st century. It's a fact. And Chris Christie, honest to God, your claim that Donald Trump is motivated by vengeance and grievance would be a lot more credible if your entire campaign were not based on vengeance and grievance against one man. And if people at home want to see a bunch of people blindly bashing Donald Trump without an iota of vision for this country, they could just change the channel to MSNBC right now. But I'm not running for president of MSNBC. I am running for president of the United States. We're skating on thin ice, and we cannot set a precedent where the party in power uses police force to indict its political opponents. It is wrong. We have to end the weaponization of justice in this country.
That clip right there, or maybe, I'm not sure if it was that moment, but that's definitely, to me, maybe top 3 moments of the night, because we did, unfortunately, and if you watched, and anybody in the audience who watched our footage last night, it was grueling. We were dying. Yeah, it was grueling to have to sit through that, because it was completely unserious, not really a serious conversation about any of the topics. But this assessment that Vivek says here, Misty,
he's right,
is the exact assessment that Nick and I have said many times, that he is just here as a sort of media plant to be able to go on shows like Morning Joe the following day to talk about it. But what are your thoughts? You were going to chime in. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, I am not a fan of Vivek Ramaswamy. I think somebody in the chat called him an establishment plant. I think that's almost certain. I think he is likely a psyop. I think it is very likely that he has been kind of put into place as kind of a failsafe, maybe, as if, because Trump's got all this stuff going on. So I think he's interesting. I think he talks about some interesting stuff. Obviously, he supports Julian Assange publicly. I think that's fantastic. I will use that to my advantage all day long. But he is 100% correct in this clip. And I said this, we talked about this numerous times. I think I talked about it with Brad Pierce when I was on my show, or when we were on my show. And I said that it was almost certainly going to be 2 hours of Trump bashing, and everybody was just going to be bashing Trump and talking about Trump, and Trump wasn't going to be there, but it was going to be all about Trump. And I think that's Ramaswamy is very correct in saying that. But I do think he's also very smart, because people like DeSantis and Chris Christie have been trashing Trump, and I don't understand what their play is there, because if you alienate MAGA, if you alienate Trump supporters, how the
Right.
hell
Doesn't
do
make
you
any
expect
sense.
to win? You know what I'm saying? And so the idea that they've been going so full force and so publicly trashing him, you don't have to do that. You don't have to praise him. You don't have to support him. You don't have to, first of all, you could just not talk about him. The guy's already soaking up so much of the energy. You could just not talk about him. But then when you do talk about him, don't, publicly trash him in the way that a lot, especially DeSantis, has been doing, because all you're going to do is alienate his base. And there's no way in hell you're going to win if you do that. So it's like, I don't know if it's a political miscalculation or if that's just the role that they're there to play. There's arguments being made for both, but I think that Ramaswamy is absolutely dead on right there. And Chris Christie is a turd. No question.
Yeah, and to your point about them criticizing Trump, this is the reason why, to me, Chris Christie is unserious.
Yeah.
Because if your goal is to win, you would not piss off the audience you need to get votes.
Exactly.
So that's the reason why he's not a serious person. I feel like Pence is not serious either. At
No.
least the politics that he wants to project makes him an unserious candidate, sort of by default of that, of that. But let's play another clip here. We're gonna play a bunch of clips of Vivek first to kind of get the juices going here. And this one is,
he was probably the most interesting. Again, I didn't watch the whole thing. I've just been seeing some clips, but I think, in my opinion, he was certainly the most interesting of the bunch.
And I don't know if I said it last night. No, I did say it last night during the live coverage. I think he won the debate in that sense.
Yeah.
Nobody's winning the debate. When we're saying winning, it's not winning on substance. It's not like he convinced anybody for his ideas. We're just saying winning as he had the most memorable lines where the audience clapped on subject matters that maybe we agree with. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a better way of saying it. But let's watch this next clip and comment on the other side.
No, I didn't raise a hand. Let us be honest as Republicans. I'm the only person on the stage who isn't bought and paid for, so I can say this. The climate change agenda is a hoax.
I'm going to rewind it only because Twitter was glitching right at the most important parts. I wanted them to hear it, but let's rewind it. And it's only 20 seconds. Let's watch again.
No, I didn't raise a hand. Let us be honest as Republicans. I'm the only person on the stage who isn't bought and paid for, so I can say this. The climate change agenda is a hoax. The climate change agenda is a hoax. And we have to declare independence.
Why would he? I mean, he had to have known he would get that reaction about climate change. So it would seem unnecessary to me that you're having a good night and then you go, hold on, wait a minute. Let me say something really stupid that kind of wipes away some of the perceived good things that I have said. And another part I want you to kind of address and is what he actually says when he says, I'm the only one that's not bought and paid for. And then you see them kind of like half-heartedly kind of get offended, and because they kind of know they are bought and paid for, but nobody is really like really offended by that. But what do you think about the substance of what he said, and then why do you think he chose a moment to kind of say that climate change is a hoax? And I guess there's a lane on the conservative side that I don't believe the science, but they think that this is a active hoax. If you want to speak to that, Misty.
Well, maybe we could play it again, because I don't think he said climate change is a hoax. I think he said the agenda behind climate change is a hoax. And in that
would make sense.
Yeah, and
that would make sense.
He's right. Climate change is real. Climate change is a very real thing that we need to contend with, but this issue has absolutely been co-opted, and it is now being weaponized against us. And so the idea that he's speaking about that, I think, is incredibly important, because that is reality. I mean, in my opinion, come for me if you want, that's fine. But I think that there is definitely some stuff going on behind the scenes to weaponize this issue, this very real and important issue. And this is what they do, right? I mean, very often they take these issues that are legitimate, that are serious, that we need to contend with, that we need to have conversations about, and they weaponize them against us. And so I think that there's a lot of that happening. A lot of money is being made on the climate change agenda, a lot of money. So he's not, if that's what he said, and I mean, if maybe we could play
We're going to replay it, yeah.
Yeah,
we're going to replay it just to listen clearly, because that distinction, and this is why it's always good for me to have a guest. I got to start making sure I have guests, because I miss things like this all the time, and people say this in the comments, he didn't say it that way. So I give a whole complete critique based on something I didn't even really pay attention to. but that absolutely is true. And you see it when you hear CNN and MSNBC talking about, or on Morning Joe is where I saw it, talking about, yes, U.S. needs to talk with China and be in communication for stuff like climate change. Do I really believe Morning Joe believes about climate change? Do I really believe that? Absolutely not. Do I really believe people telling me that these two countries need to talk because of climate change? Do I believe that's really happening? I mean, happening in any sort of substantial way? Absolutely not. So there's a lot of different ways it's being co-opted. Another thing I hear about climate change that is just what made to me clearly this is weird. This is not on the up and up, and that's the Great Reset theory.
Yes.
When they're labeling people like Klaus Schwab's like somebody a climate like somebody who's for climate change. I'm
Bill
like,
Gates
this is
involved.
Yeah, I'm like, this
Bill
is
Gates,
completely
listen, they're crushing
nuts.
small
But go
farmers.
ahead.
They're crushing small farmers right now with the climate change agenda. They're trying to destroy small farmers so that they can take over the farming operations, and they want you to eat bugs, right? And so that's not a conspiracy theory. I'm tired of people pretending as if that's something that we all just made up out of thin air. They talk about it openly. They write books about it. They do whole speeches about it. That is definitely an agenda that they are seeking to follow. So yeah, I mean, I think that right now the big one is the idea that they're using this to crush small farmers, which I am absolutely 100% opposed to. And so if that's what he said, I may have gotten it wrong. He may have said climate change is a hoax. I don't think he did though. I think he said the agenda. So I think that is a very important distinction for sure.
Okay, that is a very important distinction. And let's listen. Either way, whether he did say it or not, it gave us the opportunity to point out the fact that there is real climate change, and then there's people who are co-opting it just like everything else that they co-opt. So let's listen.
No, I didn't raise a hand. Let us be honest as Republicans. I'm the only person on the stage who isn't bought and paid for, so I can say this. The climate change agenda is a hoax. The climate change agenda is a hoax. And we have to declare independence for it. And the reality...
Now, is the audience like upset
they're booing because he said he's not bought? No, because he said he's not bought. Yeah, he said he's the only one that's not bought, and I think that they have an issue with that. I think likely he's very bought too. So I don't. The audience may not be reacting because they think he's bought. I don't know if the Fox News audience would know that, but I think that they're probably trying to contend that Trump is not bought, which is absurd. But I think that that's probably likely what they're booing.
Because I'm trying to look at who would be offended here. I mean, Nikki Haley obviously cannot be offended by that. She obviously, of anybody on this, she is bought and paid for. Of course, Mike Pence is bought and
Chris
paid.
Christie is bought.
Chris Christie is bought and paid for. I'm just trying to see. I don't know much about Asa Hutchinson.
Me neither.
Or this other guy. So I can't comment on them. And then you already know Tim Scott is bought. He's a center. He's bought.
Yes.
So I don't see why they would be offended by that. I'll let it finish out.
Yeah, I think it's the Trump thing.
That has to be what it is. So I misinterpreted the boos. They're not booing what he's saying about the climate agenda.
I think they likely agree with that.
Yeah.
I would say that audience probably agrees with him on that.
Yes. And he did say, we did confirm, he said climate change agenda. Not climate change.
Very different.
So that's a key thing I picked up on.
The climate change agenda is a hoax, and we have to declare independence for it. And the reality is, the anti-carbon agenda is the wet blanket on our economy.
No, I didn't raise it. Okay, so let's move to the next one. That was a 20-second clip. We're spending a little more time than I wanted to, because they're actually, just like you said, you saw a bunch of clips. There's a ton of clips of this guy, and that's, to me, is what also kind of confirms
that he won.
That he kind of won the night. Yeah, because he's the one that's kind of. I think he's trending now. Actually, somebody tweeted that he's trending.
He is very charismatic. He is very. He's got kind of that Obama appeal where he's very well spoken. He's very articulate. He's very passionate. I think that he's got that going for him. I mean, obviously, it's bullshit, but
different politics. Oh, Nick is here. I'm glad he showed up. I was gonna ask you. You usually take Thursdays off. I'm like, I don't want to bother him if he's with his family, but I'm glad you're here, sir. So join whenever you're ready.
What's poppin'?
Yeah,
What's
happy
poppin'?
showed
Yeah,
up. But let's
Misty
play
in the
the
house
clip.
too. What's
And
poppin'?
this next clip is let me just let it play, and then because this will get us a lot of reaction from us.
Mr. Ramaswamy. I was born in 1985, and I grew up into a generation where we were taught to celebrate our diversity and our differences so much that we forgot all of the ways we are really just the same as Americans, bound by a common set of ideals that set this nation into motion in 1776. And this is our moment to revive those common ideals. God is real. There are two genders. Fossil fuels are a requirement for human prosperity. Reverse racism is racism. An open border is not a border. Parents determine the education of their children. The nuclear family is the greatest form of governance known to man. Capitalism lifts us up from poverty. There are three branches of government. And the U.S. Constitution, it is the strongest guarantor of freedom in human history. That is what won us the American Revolution.
He's a
That is what
bootlicker.
will win us the revolution of 2024. Thanks for letting me introduce myself tonight.
That was hard to let it play all the way, but I wanted to let it play all the way. But
Yeah.
what's up, Nick? I know you've been watching. What made you join? It was something, because usually when you
Yeah.
join midstream, something triggered you. What triggered you, sir?
There's a lot to discuss. I'm my friend Misty here. What's probably Misty?
Hey.
This incredible conversation because I was out earlier. I was doing another run, and I think we gave away around $400-$500 of school supplies.
Nice.
So I'm gonna show you guys what I just got back from. This is why I joined a little bit late. I didn't want to confirm for sure, but because I knew I had some runs to make today, so I was like, if I do join, I may join a little bit late. So I helped her and her family get a ton of school supplies. Like that's her car. I just load her with a ton because she has like 3 grandkids. She has a bunch of other younger people in her family, and her daughter. We're gonna meet up. I'm gonna try and help her get her daughter some clothes as well. Thinking the best way I can do it is probably just get her like a gift card because she said she slept at Walmart. So I'm like, I don't believe in litmus. I don't believe in means testing shit. You know what I mean? So I'm kind of like, hey, well, I'll give you the cash. I'm sure you didn't get it for yourself. You know what I mean? So, I went around and I found her and her family. So it feels good to do this because I got like 3 people who already volunteered to help us in our next event. I have someone I'm gonna do another run this maybe tomorrow on Saturday, and then we'll pass out some more supplies. I think I'll have a barbecue we throwing this Saturday. We're gonna have
that's gonna be dope
as well. So yeah, man, this is that's why I was earlier today. Just trying to get activated in the community, and people already get activated. Already people I know that reached out to help once they see this stuff. So much love and appreciation to this brilliant woman here. So anyway, that was
And
that
she's
was
a grandma?
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Right.
That's crazy.
But that inspired. But what these things do, Nick, is inspire. Like it feels like people's radicalness has just been hibernating, and all it takes is somebody to wake it out and be like, "Oh, wait, let me wake that up in me. I've been wanting to do this," because that's the reaction we get all the time. I've been looking to do this for so long. Is a reaction?
Yeah, that's exactly what her daughter told me when she volunteered, and she's gonna help me with a few runs later. And a few people asked me why I'm doing this because they like shocked. They're like, "What's the catch? What's the gimmick here?" And I explained them my radical ass politics. I said, our people are struggling, fam. We need radical love. This is what I was telling her, and this is what she got fired up. Like I saw like the passion in her eyes immediately. That's why I love doing this shit, man. I love actually talking to real people, not online avatars. People afraid to use their real picture, for example. I'm talking to real people in the streets. I was telling her, I'm like, this government has failed us, fam. Like no one's saving us. Like, and as soon as I said that, it was no resisting, no PMC resistance. As soon as I said that, she's like, hell yeah, you're right. Like it was immediate. She understood what I was talking about. Like, so if the government not working, we need to change our culture. We need to love each other, and we need to come together. So I'm starting that now. And then she's like, yo, how can I help? Got 3 volunteers just from doing that. Because as I explained to you guys before, mutual aid without the community building, without the education, it's just charity. because
Yeah.
mutual aid is about building on a relevant goal, building community for a relevant goal. Just charity where nothing is learned or gained or built upon, that is not going to benefit the movement. The whole point is to change the culture, and that is what I'm having a great time doing. I think I'm gonna have like 2 volunteers. One of my cousins is gonna join me, and we're just gonna go around neighborhoods knocking on doors, and we're gonna do a checklist. It's like, hey, what you need? What you need, fam?
I love
What's going
that.
on too? Hey, what do you need that the government not helping you with, right? And I'm gonna preach that
Great.
message to these people because I got like 100% flip rate on that shit. 100%. Every time I say that shit, people are like, hell yeah, you're right, brother. I made like 6, 7 good friends. Like their whole family loves me now just because I'm telling them this shit. And they're like, oh, why is no one else telling us this? And I'll immediately get made friends just like that. That's how you build community, through mutual aid. Now these people who was deactivated. Remember what we say, CJ? We're not looking for Trump supporters. We're not looking for partisans, right? These people was deactivated, and now they're organizing with us with mutual aid. You guys see the people we going after? You guys see the strategy and the vision that I'm proud to see play
Well,
out?
shit, even if they are Trump supporters, if you go
Yeah,
and you
for sure,
talk to them
absolutely.
and you educate them and you
Absolutely.
build community with them, it's very quick.
You're absolutely
I've done
right.
that in my own community. I live in small town Ohio. I'm surrounded by Trump supporters, and I have those conversations all the time. And it's not hard. Trump supporters actually agree with us on a lot of
stuff.
things. And it's not that hard to have those conversations with them. I mean, it's probably a little bit easier for me because I'm white, so it's a little bit easier. But yeah, I mean, it's not that hard to flip these people, and once they recognize that you agree with them on some shit, it's very easy to get that inroad. It's not that hard.
So
And
to
it-
get back up, go ahead, CJ. No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, because you said it's probably easy because you're white, and this is what white allies do.
Should be doing.
This is because you say all the time, like, we can't do it. We aren't the right messengers for a lot of
No.
these messages, so we can't do it.
And people need to stop
This is
getting
why
mad
what
at
you're doing
me
is so great.
for being
Yeah,
willing to
go
have
ahead.
those conversations with people
Yeah,
that I
this
don't
is
agree
so
with.
fucking
Because
stupid.
people trash me for doing that, and I'm like, go fuck yourself. That's that should be my job. That's a role that I can
Exactly.
play. That's something I can
Exactly.
do. I have the ability to walk into those spaces and have those conversations, and if I can do that, I should be doing that. And people get so mad. I can't believe you're willing to talk to racists. I can't believe. And listen, are some Trump supporters casually racist? Absolutely. Will I call that out every single time it comes up? Every single time? Yes, absolutely. But I can still attempt to enter it, and it doesn't always go great. I'm not going to lie. Sometimes
Right.
it goes poorly. But I mean, that's the very least I could do, is to attempt to enter into those conversations and change some minds.
Yeah, that's
So stop
that's
getting
my
mad.
point.
Stop
And I
hating on me
noticed
for doing it.
I noticed the people who will get mad at you are the dumb PMC left that we call out all the time. Like
Yes.
these are the DSA types.
They want to
The
hang
DSA
out in their
types
little
that-
bubble. Yeah.
Yes, and they legitimately do not believe in organizing on class lines.
No.
They don't believe in any legitimate socialist and communist rhetoric. And I take it upon myself to call these people out because no one makes socialists and communists look worse than they do. You guys think right-wing propaganda is hurting our movement? Not at all. People see the DSA clowns and they see these people who are anti-organizing on class lines, and there are white DSA members that say shit like that. I cut out my racist family members. I don't talk to racist white people. Like, you're not benefiting our community at all.
They think that's
At
cool.
all.
They think that makes them look cool. Oh, look, you're an ally. You stop talking to your racist family. That's not what you're supposed to do is have conversations, really tough conversations with those racist family members and change their fucking minds. How do you expect to change their minds if you're not even willing to engage in conversation? It's so frustrating to me. And I'm like, I don't care that I get hate for it. I'm going to keep doing it. But it's just so self-defeating when people get mad over that.
Yeah,
it's so dumb.
I have an interesting clip I want to play.
Go ahead. If you want to,
yeah, I read this because you pull it up here. Because I see you pull my tweet up, and this is where this is actually perfect, CJ. Whether you know or not, it's actually a good preface to what I'm about to pull up because Chris Christie, the NATO right, you know how the NATO left led by Bernie Sanders. The NATO right is in shambles. Y'all knew this segment was coming, right? I told you guys this is the segment. The NATO right is in shambles because the NATO right thought they was delusional in believing that Nikki Haley and Chris Christie and Mike Pence somehow had an intellectually superior position than Vivek Ramaswamy, who we explained before, who is deeply unimpressive to me. But he won the debate, not saying much. That's because everyone else is clowns. right? So Vivek is one of the few people who have common sense and knowledge to speak out against the Ukraine war when polls show that the majority of Republicans are against that. And even one of the polls seen, and once again, we gotta be careful with polls. So that's why I say just one. One of the polls I saw it showed around 1 out of 3 Democrats are against the Ukraine war funding, which is like, dude, that's a lot. You know what I mean? It's not great, but that's a lot. Combine that with the independents and the Republicans who don't support it, it's a politically canceled position as you would expect it is, right? You have people like AOC who support the NATO Ukraine agenda, and then they wonder why her approval ratings as low as Kamala Harris, as low as Hillary Clinton. And I told you guys, fam, if AOC did cringe ass shit about like doing videos about sunscreen, but she was an anti-imperialist though, like she organizing real shit and she fighting for the war. Like people wouldn't give a fuck, to be honest. I wouldn't care.
No.
Like she did some silly shit every once in a while.
Talk about your sunscreen, girl, but let's go in the war. You know what I mean?
So that's my theory, because I think I don't think that would lead her unpopularity. Because she don't fight. That's what it is. Meanwhile, I preface it too long. Let's get to the comment here. The Ukraine war is going to be a giant thing. Mm-hmm. We haven't even the campaign haven't started yet, fam. Like the Republican primary is still organizing themselves, and we see which way this is going. The Vivek wing, the Trump wing, where I think Trump's solution, and I'm gonna say this right now, the right solution on this issue is absolutely incoherent. Because Vivek Ramaswamy said, we're gonna have peace in Ukraine. I'm gonna force Putin to leave and force him to end his military line. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about, nigga? You might as well write fan fiction. What else? You're gonna solve world hunger? Use a free market capitalist model. What else? What else is in your fucking fantasy land? But anyway, let me get to it. You can play the clip if you want to, Jay, because it actually fits really well with my segment, believe it or not. So let's play the clip, and then I kind of explain my tweet here, so I don't have to read it. I just explain what my mindset was when I made it. But that's what I'm saying. Like the NATO right is going to get dismantled. And imagine when the general election is between the right wing, like Vivek and the Trump team speaking out against the Ukraine war, versus Joe Biden and surrogate Bernie Sanders advocating for war. I cannot wait, CJ. I cannot wait until Marjorie Taylor Greene quotes, tweets Bernie Sanders and crushes him on the Ukraine war. You know it's coming. You know it's coming. Anyway, let's play the clip. And I have a clip showing you guys the meltdown from CNN and MSNBC after this. So let's continue.
All right, let's play it.
Ramaswamy, you would not support an increase of funding to Ukraine.
I would not. And I think that this is disastrous, that we are protected against an invasion across somebody else's border when we should use those same military resources to prevent across the invasion of our own southern border here in the United States of America. We are driving into China's hands.
So close.
Yeah, I was just about to say, these anti-war populists, they always be right at the cusp. It's like, just stop right there. Don't say nothing else after that. And then they go with the sentence that kind of wipes away. And it's usually, no, we shouldn't be doing no Ukraine. Stop the Ukraine war so we can go over here and have war with China. That's usually the dynamic.
He's
just
that
wait
guy.
for them to say,
He's that guy. He's a big China guy.
And I explained this before. They're not anti-imperialist guys.
No.
They criticize the moves of the empire because they don't believe it's the right move for the empire to make.
Yeah.
So the right, they argue that Ukraine is not in our best interest. The same way you have some anti-war right people that say the war on terror is not in our best interest. But then they would turn around and say, hey, in our best interest, we got to wage war to expand our empire against China. You have Ron DeSantis that say, hey, why aren't we doing more to crush? This is literally what he said after the Colombia elections. He said, why aren't we doing more to crush socialists in South America like we used to?
Yeah.
So it's not there. Go ahead.
Vivek wants to drone strike Mexico. He wants to drone strike Mexico to deal with the cartels. He wants to go to war with Mexico. He's fucking nuts. He's not an anti-imperialist. He's fucking nuts. That's what he is.
But anyway, let's continue this clip because this split between the capitalists who disagree on Ukraine, I can't wait to see when it hits a real fever pitch. Guys, we're still in the preseason.
I know.
conversation of this. So wait till the Bernie Sanders progressive left had to force out their hole. They've been trying their best to avoid this shit, but they're not going to be able to avoid this much when they hit the campaign trail, when they got to do interviews. Imagine if Donald Trump said something crazy about Ukraine, and they're like, "Hey, Bernie Sanders, what do you think about the Trump comment on Ukraine?" Wait till that clip comes out. Wait till that.
Say, I don't. He gonna have this response. I don't know. I don't really mess with that kind of stuff too much, like he did before.
Yeah, let's all the way through, then we've come afterwards.
So I'm gonna have to refresh like the comment thing that
it's all good.
Twitter does. Yeah,
So
I'll refresh.
Yeah. So after we play this clip, I have a clip of some follow-up interviews, and you guys already covered the Chris Christie thing, and I made
you mean like he's in a spin room? Like you talking about when he was a follow-up interview in a spin room?
Dana Bash, when Dana Bash had a meltdown regarding his Ukraine segments. We'll play that afterwards, but let's watch this clip all the way through first.
Here we go.
I would not. And I think that this is disastrous, that we are protecting against an invasion across somebody else's border when we should use those same military resources to prevent across the invasion of our own southern border here in the United States of America. We are driving Russia further into China's hands. The Russia-China alliance is the single greatest threat we face. And I find it offensive that we have professional politicians on the stage that will make a pilgrimage to Kyiv, to their Pope, Zelensky, without doing the same thing for people in Maui or the south side of Chicago or Kensington. I think that we have to put the interests of Americans first, secure our own border instead of somebody else's. And the reality is, this is also how we project strength by making America strong at home.
Now, his comment about the MSNBC and Chris Christie, that's probably his most popular comment. To me, this was his most policy effective comment. Was this comment? I remember last night thinking when he made this comment, because the Pope, your Pope Zelensky,
I love that.
That was spot on. But go ahead. It sounds like you wanted to chime in. Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, I enjoyed that moment, and I enjoyed the Chris Christie moment the same way I enjoyed the Trump Republican debates, because I don't find Vivek very interesting. I don't find him brilliant at all. But imagine how horrible your positions are to be destroyed by an amateur politician like Vivek, in the same way Donald Trump destroyed the 2016 field, in the same way we just saw Vivek destroy that field. We've seen a long-time establishment politicians get dismantled easily. How can you not enjoy that? And you're going to watch CNN get dismantled here. The Chris Christie clip from MSNBC is very fascinating, especially the foreign policy part. But listen to this, because this is CNN, and this is how they titled the video. Dana Bash presses Vivek on his Ukraine comments from the debate. So let's watch this. And we can comment on it.
Here with me. Thank you so much for being here.
It's good to see you, Dana.
Were you expecting the incoming that you got tonight?
You know, it was an honor. I took it as a badge of honor, as the 38-year-old outsider in this race, who's never
not an outsider.
No. Stage and see a lot of establishment politicians that threatened by my rise. I am thrilled that it actually gave me an opportunity to introduce myself to the people of this country. We're just getting warmed up, and I'm really thrilled with how it went.
I want to play for our viewers a moment that you had with Nikki Haley about foreign policy.
Got it.
And by the way, just to sum it up, I watched a little bit more in Joe today, and they're pretending that Nikki Haley is a winner of this debate.
Yeah. And let's pause it here, because I was going to say this earlier too. Everybody, and if you didn't, I know you didn't because you were running some errands, but I played a clip of Breaking Points. Guess who Kyle agrees with? Nikki Haley won the night.
No way.
Yes.
Come on, man.
Kyle Kalinske on Breaking Point.
No way.
Yes, he said Nikki Haley run the night. So I'm saying that tells you, because I was going to say this, I was going to play that and then say, hey, Kyle Kalinske and the professional managerial class left, the NATO left, are literally having the same talking points and literally have the same like understanding and belief in politics as Morning Joe. There's no difference. Morning Joe is saying that Nikki Haley won by far. CNN too. So, that is literally like the establishment people. Nick and Misty. Those are the ones who are saying Nikki won. Go ahead.
Let's show that Kyle Kalinske, and we already know this because he's just embarrassing. He's just
Yes.
full-fledged establishment now. Nikki Haley, like we didn't even think of her when we was talking about winners and losers. She sounded like a shit lib the entire debate. Nothing but identity politics bullshit. And I was calling out, watch the live coverage. Every time she speak, I was like, man, this identity politics bullshit. The same thing that the right claim they rail against. And then she also had foreign policy that is deeply unpopular.
Yeah.
Deeply unpopular. So in what universe did she win? When you say that, you expose your shit liberty. And once again, Kyle Kalinske and the Breaking Points crowd, the Breaking Points left, sounding no different than Joe Scarborough, because that's literally the message that they are bringing. They are forced to admit, CJ. They're forced to admit that Asa didn't do anything. They're like, yeah, Asa was kind of forgettable. There was someone who made that comment. So they're forced to acknowledge that, but they saw these few neocon moments for Nikki, and they had to give it to her for propaganda purposes. But let me continue the clip. But it's embarrassing that people thought she won.
You are choosing a murder over a pro-American country.
First of all, Mr. Ramaswamy, you have 30 seconds. Mr. Dissent,
Nikki, I wish you well in your future career on the boards of Lockheed and Raytheon.
Oh my! Dismantled right there. Literally in the first few seconds. And Nikki Haley and the establishment types are so entrenched in DC, they don't even understand how Vivek destroyed her in literally a few seconds. Because the average person that see that is like, yep, you're goddamn right. She is bought and owned by the military-industrial complex. Listen to this part again. I'll play some more of it. Fucking dismantles her immediately.
First of all, Mr. Ramaswamy, you have 30 seconds. Mr. Dissent,
Nikki, I wish you well in your future career on the boards of Lockheed and Raytheon.
But
the fact of the matter,
and
Boeing came off of it, but you've been pushing this lie. You've been pushing this lie all week, Nikki.
They don't let him finish right here. I noticed that. They never come back to him either to let him finish his critique of Ukraine. Yeah,
that's what they
never come back
and
to let him finish his critique on Ukraine.
They've been fighting about Israel for the past week and a half because Ramaswamy dared to step he's not even anti-Israel. He's very pro-Israel. He just stepped slightly outside of the approved narrative, and she had a temper tantrum, had a full-on meltdown, and now she's trying to claim that he wants to defund Israel. Fuck Israel. How about that? You know what I'm saying? I'm so tired of this whole conversation about Israel and how, we're sending them billions of dollars a year. Everybody's freaking out about Ukraine, as they should be. But how about we talk about the fact that we're sending billions of dollars to Israel every single year? And it is ridiculous.
So is this not part of Kyle's analysis at all?
No.
The fact that she's going to back for Israel?
No.
Once again, deeply unserious rhetoric, and they are the dumb left. Yes, I am taking their term. That the funny thing, they are the one who coined it. The Sam Cedar Kyle Kalinske left, but we thoroughly exposed them as completely anti-intellectual, completely void of any political analysis based on theory.
It's very
personal lived working class experience.
Yeah,
it's just fucking garbage.
It's surface level.
I can't even imagine how fucking bad that analysis is to think that she won. Go back a few seconds and we begin.
Pushing this lie. You've been pushing this lie all week, Nikki.
You want to go and defund Israel? You want to
let me address that. I'm glad you brought that up. I'm going to address each of those right now.
They say nothing. It's not even her turn. They don't even say anything.
He was given 30 seconds and she jumped in within 10.
Yeah, they always break the rules for the people they like.
Yeah.
I even know that during the Bernie campaign, they did it all the time.
Yeah.
They have preferred people they will allow them to break the rules. And you notice how Nikki Haley interrupts them.
Yeah.
It's the same thing that between that exchange between Pete Buttigieg and Bernie, I'll never forget, where Pete wouldn't allow Bernie to speak because he knew Bernie was about to get that ass. It's an establishment technique.
Yeah.
And even though, once again, we all know I don't view Ramaswamy as particularly impressive, but can you imagine Ramaswamy and Nikki Haley in a sit-down, long-form, 60-minute conversation? Right. Vivek will ruin her entire career just based on these short exchanges, because
it wouldn't take much. It doesn't take much. It does not take much to destroy any one of these establishment people because they are garbage. They're garbage human beings.
She's relying on sound bites, media plants in the crowd. But if that's why Vivek let me take these one by one and analyze this, because if they did and they analyzed each one of these issues, Nikki Haley would be exposed as the unhinged neocon that she is. and let's continue, because then after this clip, CNN, Dana Bash, Anderson Cooper, they're gonna go after Vivek for this. They're not happy with this clip.
Yeah.
So let's watch.
The experience, and it shows.
And you know what? The
It
foreign
shows.
policy experience.
You don't have foreign policy experience, and it shows.
Well, the reality is the people who have foreign policy experience, it shows what a disaster it's been, from the Iraq war on down to other pointless wars,
Exactly.
wars that these administrations from foreign policy establishments in both parties.
So if you were
Can you pause it? Can you pause it? Okay, go ahead.
I'll pass it to you, CJ. I'll pass it to you, CJ. But if you were in the establishment and you're talking about foreign policy, the last thing you should ever bring up is your foreign policy experience.
Yeah.
That immediately disqualifies you.
Yeah.
If anything, you should never bring that up. Like,
No.
Make sure people don't know that you was part of these decisions. Never bring up the fact that you have foreign policy experience, because that's every decision the United States has made has been a failure, been an inhumane failure. But CJ, I know you want to chime in, so go ahead.
You can see Dana Bash face. She is terrified that this guy might say something too much. She is literally terrified that this guy might say something out of line, because she knows she has to react on the fly. So she's just kind of like, please don't say nothing too crazy that I have to get out here and do basically fisticuffs with you figuratively out here. Like, because I don't want to take it there. I'm a professional managerial class. I want to stay civil with you. But she knows that weapons manufacturers are listening to what you're doing. Why didn't you push back on him when he said this? Go ahead, Misty.
No, the weapons manufacturers are also funding this segment.
Yes.
They're funding
Yes.
CNN, so she's got to be very careful here, for sure.
Yeah,
Can't
this
piss
is her
off the
big
donors.
moment.
Yeah.
This is her big moment. Sink or swim, Dana. You better not fucking fellas here.
People who have foreign policy experience, it shows what a disaster it's been, from the Iraq war on down to other pointless wars, no-win wars that these administrations from foreign policy establishments in both parties having led us into. I think the results speak for themselves. They've been disastrous. And so I do think that I am the only person bringing clear strategic vision to our foreign policy, rather than just going through the talking points.
You want to know why I don't believe him? Just real quick, because he's a Trump bootlicker.
Yeah.
On the debate stage, he said Donald Trump is the best president he ever seen, or at least in his lifetime, something like that.
The
right?
20th century, I think he said.
In the 20th
Yes,
century.
20th century.
In the 20th century. But the person that he's having a debate with, who's the establishment neocon, Nikki Haley, was hired by who?
Donald Trump.
Why is there no criticism of that by people?
Right? He's the best. He said, I'm going to drain the swamp. And then he literally dug under the swamp and found the worst of the worst swamp monsters and hired all of them. So how anybody's pretending like Donald Trump is some, amazing president, some genius, it's just bullshit. I'm so tired of the Trump supporters, and they're absolutely delusional.
Yeah, I had enough.
Oh
I had
God,
enough.
it's exhausting. And listen, I'm an Assange supporter. I'm so tired. They don't even know. They don't even know that it was Donald Trump that had Julian Assange arrested. And then they tell them, they freak the fuck out. They're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, yeah, it was under Donald Trump that he was arrested. It was under Donald Trump that Julian Assange was spied on. It was under Donald Trump that they plotted to murder him. They don't even know this shit. They don't know. They've just completely blocked it out. They are they're cult. And I hate to say cultists because they get very offended, but it is true. If you are blindly following this guy, you are a cultist, period.
I mean, he appointed Bolton and Pompeo. I'm done. Bolton and Pompeo. I'm done. Go ahead.
It was Donald Trump that stole $1.3 billion of Venezuelan gold.
Yes. We're going to go steal their oil for Syria. We're going to go steal their oil.
It was Donald Trump that was waging a genocide in Yemen.
Yeah. Well, that's been going on for a long time. We can't blame that on him. He continued it. But that's been going on for a very long time.
Yeah, absolutely. We understand that. He continued that.
Yeah.
You want to know who had no criticism and other stuff? Had a president right in front of his face that didn't mention it? Tucker Carlson.
Oh my God.
You got the guy who claims he cares about Julian Assange has a fucking president who tried to kill Julian Assange, doesn't ask about him.
No. Got to keep that access. Got to keep that
soon.
access, Nick. You got to keep it.
Fucking
What a coward.
What a
fucking coward.
Fucking coward. Boy, there are a lot of Tucker fans that are gonna be upset with me when we do that segment. I made it 20 minutes in. I made it 20 minutes in the Trump Tucker conversation. Yeah, you know I don't give a fuck. It's gonna be hilarious. Couldn't finish it. 20 minutes of straight up garbage.
Yes.
And we said the debate was garbage, right?
Yes.
The debate had more policy discussion than the fucking Trump Tucker conversation. How the fuck is that possible?
No hard questions.
The whole
were asked.
conversation was like, Tucker was like, "Hey Trump, why do you think the media hates you? Why do you think they have to get you? You fucking bootlicking."
Zero hard questions. No hard questions were asked. Not one single hard question was asked.
No
of Donald
follow-up
Trump.
question.
You got
Like
him
that
sitting right in front of you, and you don't ask a single fucking thing of substance. Really?
Tucker Carlson pulled his best Vanguard impersonation.
Right?
Tucker Carlson.
Why do you leave mainstream media? You're just mainstream media, dude. Weak sauce. Coward.
The Tucker Carlson Trump interview was literally like the Vanguard Marianne Williamson interview. It was exactly the fucking same. So we go after them for that. Why aren't people going after Tucker for that? It was garbage, fam.
It was garbage.
It was absolute garbage. But anyway, let's continue. We're going a little bit off topic. That's my bad. I'm gonna let it continue some work. I interrupted a few times, but feel free to interrupt if you guys have anything. I'm gonna go back a little bit. I want you guys to hear this change some more.
Wars that these administrations from foreign policy establishments in both parties having led us into. I think the results speak for themselves. They've been disastrous. And so I do think that I am the only person bringing clear strategic vision to our foreign policy rather than just going through the talking points memorized in 1990.
So that might be there have been mistakes made in
Sounds
both administrations on the world stage. But let's just say you're in the Oval Office and you are, as the President of the United States, part of NATO.
Yes.
And you see what's happening in Ukraine and Russia, just for example. And Russia moves on to a NATO ally.
We will always honor our treaty commitments, but
That's
under
never
my
gonna
watch, Russia will not
happen.
move on a
What
That's
is
never gonna happen.
Since when do
What's
we
it
honor
talking
our
about?
treaties? Since when? Oh.
What an unhinged question, fam.
Yeah.
You guys know we got France that is moving on Niger right now.
Mhm.
You have Israel that's been moving on Syria, been bombing Syria. They just bombed Syria's capital last week.
Yeah.
But look at the hypothetical she brings up. What if Russia moves on another country? NATO and the NATO country are the biggest offensive threats to peace and humanity.
Yes.
What
Mind
a
blowing.
ridiculous question. Unbelievably mind blowing. But let's continue. I want to let more of it play. I want to hear the question. It is unbelievable.
The President of the United States, part of NATO.
Yes.
And you see what's happening in Ukraine and Russia, just for example. And Russia moves on to a NATO ally.
We will always honor our treaty commitments, but under my watch, Russia will not move on a NATO ally because
How
we
can you
will
be so sure?
because I will do a deal that ends the Ukraine war on terms that are backstopped by U.S. interests. The deal I would do would be to freeze the current lines of control and make a commitment that NATO will not admit Ukraine to NATO, but we get more in return by requiring Putin to exit his military alliance with Xi Jinping.
Really? Really? You think Putin gives one single fuck what you're going to require of him? Go fuck yourself, dude. Putin is laughing his ass off at you right now. Amazing. I saw his tweet about this where he's like, we're going to require Putin to... Really? You're going to require... Putin's not going to do shit for you, dude. Are you joking? Putin does not give a single fuck what you think you're going to require of him. Not a single fuck is given. Not one. Not one. Nor should it be. He's such an idiot. So stupid.
Sweet summer child.
Right?
That's why I'm going to tell you guys, it is interesting to see the liberal and corporate media having to contest against the right-wing Ukraine narrative. But I explained to you guys before, I'm not impressed by it, though. Because speaking out against the Ukraine war is the easy part, fam.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you're not a propagandized two-party supporting duopoly simp, everyone can sit through the Ukraine war.
Yeah.
What do you advocate for after that?
Ask them about China, and then it all falls apart. It all falls apart very quickly.
So I think I can hold those two thoughts at once, I believe. I think it's interesting seeing people like Vivek challenge the Ukraine narrative, while I'm explaining to you guys at the same time that they're unserious about the solution.
Yeah.
Those two thoughts can exist at once, I believe.
And we can use it to our advantage to encourage further support for the ending of the conflict in Ukraine and for exposing the ridiculousness of it and the absolute futility, and further the absolute reality that this is a NATO invoked war. This is not a Putin. Putin didn't just wake up one day and suddenly be like, I'm going to invade Ukraine. That's not what happened. And that is the story that they've been trying to feed everybody. And it's still pervasive throughout mainstream media now. But that is starting to fall away. People are starting to recognize the fact that this is 100% NATO invoked. This is our war, 100%. No question about it. We have been poking that bear for years. You know what I mean? We've been trying to poke that bear and get this exact conflict started for a very long time. So, yeah, it's but the idea that Putin cares at all, what Vivek Ramaswamy is going to require of him is absurd. So stupid.
What a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
Like the people that and his supporters hear that shit and they think it's smart. The dumbest shit it's some of the dumbest shit you will hear. Like that's more than joke quality analysis there. But that's why this clip was interesting. Because we 2 minutes in, you guys see how served 2 minutes of this motherfucker is from every side. Like if you support the two-party duopoly, whether the Dana Bad side or the Vivek side, you are a clown. Yeah. Or I'll be nice. I'm sorry. You're propagandized. Yeah. Please wake up. I'll be gentle. I'll be gentle. Because there are some people don't deserve the funk. Some people don't deserve the funk. I'll admit that. Because some people are victims of this shit. And we want to wake them up.
But we don't have time for that.
Yeah,
we don't have time for that shit anymore. I tried being patient. I really did. I don't have time for it.
Let me reload this real quick. Yeah. I try to show grace to some people, but like when I see you been repeating this shit for a while, I was like, all right, fam, you're a fucking idiot. Yeah. If the people who don't pay attention, I try to have grace for these people.
Yes.
But anyway, let's continue.
Would be to freeze the current lines of control and make a commitment that NATO will not admit Ukraine to NATO. But we get more in return by requiring Putin to exit his military alliance with Xi Jinping. China is the top threat we face. That's what we actually need to remember. And everybody in that foreign policy establishment, you saw it from Mike Pence today, too. I had to remind him the USSR does not exist anymore.
But you would be president of the United States, not president of Ukraine. And
of course,
President
Zelensky. Ukraine is a client state of the United States because we're paying the bills of their government.
Oh, they don't like that.
He just said it out loud. I love it.
Can you rewind that section, please? Rewind that, please. Rewind that. This is like this is the equivalence. This is almost, I'm not gonna say quite. It's similar to them admitting the 2014 coup back in February of 2022 of this war. It's similar to that, but go ahead.
Misty, was you about to say something before I continue?
No, I just think we should play that on a loop because he just said it out fucking loud. Out fucking loud, and I love it. That's the kind of shit I can get behind. It's like I've always said that Trump sucks, but there were some bright spots. The idea that he would just say out loud, "We're going to go steal their oil," that rips the mask off. And I mean, that's fantastic. I mean, the idea that he has no gift for subtlety and he just speaks the truth about the ridiculous and horrendous shit that we're doing. That's something that we can utilize. And I think him saying Ukraine is a client state, fuck yeah, they are.
Yeah. We have to point out he comes from the school of Trump. So to me, this is one of the traits he's picking up as a good trait from Trump. Like I think he's analyzed Trump. This is good, and he's trying to mimic Trump in some areas. This is one of them. Just unabashedly telling the truth about our imperialism, or at least our military industrial complex and strategy. Yes, when it benefits him. Absolutely.
How is it possible for someone to be so up and down in a span of just a few seconds?
Right?
Yeah, no.
I go from like rolling my eyes, to cheering, to rolling my eyes, to cheering. It's like, come on, dude.
1 second, this guy says something absolutely batshit crazy, and then he just kills it right here.
Yeah.
And you guys remember the Jimmy Dore, Marianne Wilson interview?
Oh God.
The fiction that the NATO left and the NATO supporters live on, that Ukraine is a sovereign state, it's crucial for their argument. They keep saying stuff like, "Oh, what can we possibly do to stop the Ukrainians from fighting?" We directly control and pay for their government. We can tell them exactly everything what to do. So there's that fact that they rely on. And also
we could have not overthrown their government in 2014 and installed a puppet dictator. I mean, we could have just done that. We could have just stayed the fuck out of it and not overthrown their government. I mean, we do that all the time, but people don't want to talk about that. What can we possibly do? How about we stop overthrowing democratically elected leaders in governments where we wish to control them? How about we stop doing that? I mean, are we allowed to talk about that yet? No, we're not ready for that conversation.
Yeah,
so stupid.
I'll let it continue some more.
Mike Pence today, too. I had to remind him the USSR does not exist anymore.
But you would be president of the United States,
Yes.
not president of Ukraine. And
Of course.
President
But
Zelensky.
Ukraine is a client state of the United States because we're paying the bills of their government employees.
President Zelensky wouldn't necessarily agree to what you would say about the lines and the boundaries
I have two
of
things to
this
say.
country.
You notice she skipped over that. You notice she skipped over that?
Yeah.
You telling me that's not a tail, Misty and Nick? That's a tail.
100%.
That is a tail. If you skip over one of the big, if I'm talking to you and I go, hey, yeah, I'm watching TV. I threw a grenade over the balcony. I'm about to drink this water. You skipping over the grenade on the balcony part that I said? Is that what you're gonna do? Like that's exactly what she's doing. He is.
Yeah, but President Zelensky, CJ, President Zelensky's not going to go. Fuck President Zelensky. We pay his bills.
Yeah, that's
He'll
the
do
part that
whatever
made me
the fuck
laugh.
we tell him to do. That's the point he's making. He will do whatever the fuck we tell him to do because he has to. He has no other choice.
I'm gonna play that part again because that's the part that made me laugh. I'm sorry, guys, but that
No, I
part
love it.
that part is so fucking funny because she said, "What if Zelensky disagrees with us?"
As if he has a choice.
She's such a fucking child.
Oh.
As if Zelensky got a fucking say.
That's about as
Listen to this part,
ridiculous
listen to this
as
part again.
thinking.
I didn't catch that the first time I saw this. Listen to this fucking child. I'm literally about to cry listening to this shit.
States because we're paying the bills of their government employees.
President Zelensky wouldn't necessarily agree to what you would say about the lines and the boundaries.
So I have two
of
things
this
to say.
Zelensky would not agree.
Oh.
Anyway, let's
And I
continue.
think when the U.S. stops funding Ukraine, that settles exactly where that goes. But I also think this would be a better deal for Ukraine because it comes out with its sovereignty intact. The spring offensive that
No, it
became the
doesn't.
summer offensive that became the offensive that never was. This is not on track to end well for
Wow,
Ukraine.
he's calling
either.
out the
And so I think
offensive
this is
too?
good for Ukraine.
Oh, that's a failure.
It will be a certain concessions to Putin, but we win in return. And that's what I'm focused on.
You are-
America winning.
You are the only candidate who says, and you've said for some time, that you would pardon Donald Trump.
Yes.
The
She
argument
got
that
she
Mike
she was
Pence
like, I'm
agreed
done
with
with
Mike Pence
Ukraine.
made-
he might bring up something else
She's just
important.
moving on.
Yes,
What the
I'm done with
fuck?
Ukraine. He said client state. I cannot come back to this. Go
She's
ahead.
not even going to address what he just said. She's not going to
Not
talk
at
about any
all.
of that. And how? Please, somebody explain to me how Ukraine maintains its sovereignty. First of all, it doesn't have sovereignty now. Second of all, it sure as shit isn't going to get it back after all of this is said and done. It's still going to be a client state. How does it get out of being a client state of the United States and of NATO? How? Does somebody please explain to me how that happens? Because that's not going to happen. And the offensive that he's talking about is a monumental failure. It's a failure, though, on purpose. The United States is keeping Ukraine on life support because the goal here, and I'm going to talk about this later on my show with Kyle Anslone, the goal here is that we are going to offer up an entire generation of Ukrainian men at the altar of Western imperialism, hoping that for every 6 to 10 Ukrainians that die, 1 or 2 Russians will die. We're hoping to just weaken Russia enough, and we're using Ukrainian bodies as cannon fodder to make that happen. And so we're destroying an entire generation of Ukrainian men to maybe weaken Russia, and that has still been an abject failure. And we're not even, we're sending these guys out to war. They don't have the proper gear. They don't have the proper weaponry. We've been promising them all these fighter planes. They got 6 pilots. 6 pilots. They're training in English right now, and then they have to take a 6-month course on how to operate these planes. And these planes aren't even going to show up until late of 2024. And so we are setting them up to fail on purpose, hoping that we can just keep them on the line long enough that they might weaken Russia. And that is so despicable. But that's what's happening. That's the reality of what's going on in Ukraine right now. And we're okay. You're going to pardon Trump?
Yes. Yeah, so she lasted 90 seconds at best. You gotta realize she tried to debate Vivek on Ukraine and lasted 90 seconds.
Oh, dude, somebody in the comment called him Obama Swami. That's perfect. I love that so much.
Every single one of her arguments got easily swatted away, and she lost the debate in 90 seconds.
Yeah.
Like, how is that possible?
That's sad. That's sad.
Anyway, let's finish out, and then CJ, I'll pass to you. Sorry, I kind of hijacked this, but this is a funny segment. Let's continue.
Why are you saying that before he's even convicted and before he even shows remorse?
Well, the reality is we are in the middle of a presidential election, and we have seen indictments.
Remorse?
I read each of those indictments cover to cover before issuing my statement on each of them. And the reality is, and you know this, in
This
law
part not that
enforcement,
important, so we'll
every
just let it finish.
case of a prosecutor, the most damning version of the facts and the law are in the indictment. So if there's something far different that's not in the indictments, that's nearly always true. And anyone in law, the legal practice will tell you it's a fair assumption to make. So, and I said at the time, assuming that these are the worst statement of the facts from the standpoint of the prosecution, yes, I would pardon Donald Trump on each of those facts, because I think it's a politicized persecution. And this is also part of what I mentioned to Christie on stage, is there's a difference between making a bad judgment and committing a crime. And I think if we start conflating the two, that's a dangerous, slippery slope in this country. I'll remind you, and this is coming from me now, polling at second in many of the national polls, it would be a lot easier for me if Donald Trump were not in this race. But that is not how I want to win. I want to win by convincing the people of this country that we can actually reunite our nation and lead us forward. And it will make my job as the next president that much more difficult if Donald Trump is behind bars or under indictment, especially under novel legal theories used for.
So
he's right.
I don't get.
He's right
I don't
there.
get the appeal. I don't get the appeal at all there, because that's his. I told you guys, there's two people running. There's two factions in this race. They're the people running for MSNBC. They're running also for a job at Raytheon and Boeing, Chris Christie, Nikki Haley, Asa.
Yeah.
And then there's Trump, who's going to win, and then there's everyone else who trying to be part of Trump's cabinet or set them up for a future election or maybe future grift. He like, me and Trump, we want to unite people and build a police state. Let's build a police state together, fam.
No, but he is
Salivating over building a police state. So when you hear him say these platitudes, what are you talking about?
No,
we
he's
want to bring
right
people
though. He's
together.
making a very astute political calculation, because
Yeah,
if
for
you
sure.
if he goes after Trump, he
Yeah.
alienates all of MAGA, and so he
Absolutely.
is in that way. He is absolutely right, and I don't think he really wants to bring the country together. All that stuff is bullshit. But as we were talking about earlier, he is the only one, at least that I've seen, that is smart enough to understand that he cannot alienate MAGA. He's got to. It's a very difficult line to walk. You have to be able to criticize Trump effectively, but not go too far. And I think he's so far he's doing a pretty good job of that. And I think it's going to be interesting to watch as we get deeper into the election if he's able to maintain that balance, because that's going to be tough. But I think that that is a very astute political calculation that he's making right there. I think he's right. He's dead on there.
Do you guys see why electoral politics is such a fucking grift?
It's a joke.
It's such a fucking grift, bro. Like, Vivek knows he's not defeating Trump. And
Where's
I
the
missed
Whitney Webb tweet? Where's the Whitney Webb tweet? Hold on, I'll pull it up. Whitney Webb. She said this.
Yeah, and to your point, Misty, he's making a very astute political calculation. Why?
Yeah.
Not
because he believes it.
So he can be part of the Trump political machine.
Yeah.
He can either get a cabinet pick. Trump just have he had a Truth Social tweet I saw.
Yeah.
Someone screenshot it, because the liberals, they want him back on Twitter before they can post his Truth Social stuff on Twitter.
Yeah. But Whitney Webb said
he praised Vivek. So Vivek is running to be part of the grip, to be part of the Trump industrial complex.
I think he would be a likely VP pick, frankly. I think that would be. But
So-
Whitney Webb said, sorry for everybody who voluntarily chose to waste time. They will never get back watching 8 inauthentic turds on a debate stage yesterday. Hope you guys learn your lesson. The political circus is not even straight to DVD quality anymore. And she's absolutely right. And again, I realize you guys watch it. I don't think she's speaking about you guys. I think she's talking about the general public, because those of us in independent media, sometimes we don't have a choice. It's something you have to talk about and cover. But yeah, it's a joke. All of this is a joke. There's no substance to it whatsoever. Again, it's a show. It's a soap opera featuring psychopaths. That's all it is. That's all it is.
Yeah, I'm sorry I was lagging. I think I was interrupting because I was lagging a bit, but
No,
hopefully
okay.
it works now. But CJ, I'll pass it to you. I think my internet keeps messing up, so I think I'm having an issue here.
Yeah, you are a little like it keeps like you're glitchy.
Okay. All right. Did Nick dropped out or something? Oh, there he goes.
No, it's glitchy.
Mine
He's
glitched out.
glitchy.
All right, so I can take over from this part, Nick, and whenever you come back, you just come back.
Monarch, Vivek has absolutely talked about Julian Assange. He has said he would pardon him on day one. He is one of 4 candidates that's talking about that. So that's not true. He has, in fact, talked about Julian Assange several different times, in fact.
A couple of different times. And I've seen it myself. But we're gonna switch it up. And how much time do you have, Misty, today? Just so I know
Maybe
how many
about
stories I can
30
get
minutes.
through.
I need to bounce probably about like 5:15 so I can prep for my show. Maybe
Okay,
ish.
so let's get to I mean, it's so many good
So-
stories to get to, but let's get to the Wagner Group chief that
Mm-hmm.
was supposedly killed in the plane crash. So let's start there.
So,
and
TJ,
Nick,
can you guys
whenever
hear me?
you're-
Yeah, I can
Yeah,
hear you.
now we can hear you.
Well,
Yes.
my internet is messing up, so I actually got to go not too long from now. So I'm actually gonna take this time to dip because my internet messing up.
Okay.
I just want to let you
Okay.
guys know that I'll be back. I think we got Nick and TJ. I have a few guests I'm going to announce, and I got another event. We're gonna do a barbecue giveaway this weekend. So I don't think I'm gonna stream this weekend. Just 'cause I got a few things to prepare for my event. I just want to let you guys know that before I dip out. I have some guest announcement coming up soon. But I see you guys around. I'm glad I was able to make it at least for a little bit for the stream. So I'll see you guys.
Yes, sir. All right, Nick. I shall see you. So let's move then to the next topic, which is about the Wagner Group chief, and I always call him that because for me it's so hard to remember to pronounce his name correctly. But let's
Prigozhin.
bring up Prigozhin. Okay,
Yes.
so I'll try to remember that for
Yevgeny Prigozhin.
There you go.
Very Russian.
So I'm going to start with this clip. And this clip, and this is General Petraeus. It's a very funny name, General Petraeus.
This guy should be
he
in
is
jail.
portraying us. Yes,
Yeah.
he is portraying us. But let's listen what he says months ago about this Wagner Group chief and what could happen to him after what the attempted or supposed coup against Russia. Let's listen.
Here with me now to talk about that and much more is retired U.S. Army General and former CIA Director David Petraeus. Thank you for joining me, sir. I want to talk about the impact on Ukraine in a moment, but let's just start with what's happening inside Russia. A wild 24 hours. What do you make of what happened, and what do you believe it means for Putin's standing inside Russia?
Well, I think clearly Putin is weakened. His government is weakened. The irony is that his junior partner in Belarus, Lukashenko, had to bail him out of this. Prigozhin kept his life but lost his Wagner Group, and he should be very careful around open windows in his new surroundings in Belarus where he's going. Clearly,
I wonder why he made that comment, or I wonder if the comment is referencing the United States may do something, or is he saying Russia may do something?
I think he's probably referring to Putin. He's probably trying to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Trying to be pretty with
You
it.
got to
but
play into that. Putin's evil. Putin, attacks his political opponents. And listen, Putin doesn't attack his political opponents. I don't know that there's a world leader that does not. They're all crazy psychopaths. They're all nuts. You don't reach that level of power without being kind of a psychopath. You have to be willing to do some really awful things to reach those positions of power. So it is a very rare world leader who is not completely awful. So yeah, Putin's done some terrible things, but I think this segment is really just an attempt to push that narrative even more. And I wouldn't be surprised if we did it. So we can.
And I was so this is why I had you on, because that is absolutely along the lines that I'm thinking either he's not actually dead and this is just faking his death, or the U.S. is behind it, and because of what happened, they're using it publicly to be able to blame Russia. So there's a lot of different sort of theories we have around this, but I wanted to start here just to show how this was talked about months ago. This was talked about, I can't remember this clip, but Max Blumenthal, he puts the not the exact date, but he says last June, CIA Director David Petraeus conjured visions of Wagner chief Prigozhin assassination. Quote, he should be very careful around open windows in his new surroundings. Prigozhin was reportedly killed in a plane explosion / crash today. So I wanted to show that first to kind of get it started out with. And then because a lot of this is just really speculation until we figure out the real story. So I'm just going to be playing a couple of clips here. Here's actual footage of the plane crash. And this is from RT. It says, moments after crash of Wagner chief plane, bystanders captured the moments right after a private plane believed to be carrying the PMC. That's not what you mean. What we call PMC is for the Wagner group. PMC Wagner boss Prigozhin's crash near, I think that's Tver, is how you say that. But let's look at the footage, the supposed footage of the plane crash after. Oops, sorry. There we go.
Ты думаешь, второй тоже мертвый? Но один весь разорванный, а второй тоже?
You know what's funny, Misty? Not funny, funny in the unusual sort of funny, is that the way they're talking about it as if there's not even a question that this was a murder, like somebody took him out. It's not even a question that this was an accident. Like plane crashes happen, not all the time, but they happen. Plane crashes happen. It's not even talked as if that is even a possibility. Why do you think, in particular, our media, U.S. media, is not even talking in terms of this is an accident or possible accident, or even we don't know what happened? The narrative is they took this guy out. Why do you think
That
they're
doesn't suit
going
the
to
narrative.
that?
That doesn't. They need the narrative that Putin's evil. They need to continue that so that, and this is just another way that they can perpetuate that. I would not be surprised at all if the CIA took him out. But we also need to be clear that we don't know for sure that this guy's actually dead. He was dead once before, and then he wasn't. So this is not the first time that this guy has been dead. So, and I know that they're saying that it's confirmed. I don't know how much I believe that. I don't know if they have DNA results. I don't know how you could possibly know that for sure.
Can't confirm that,
but yeah, they
it
just
does
they
look
need the
like
narrative. They need this narrative.
Yeah, because it was also confirmed that the Hunter Biden story was a Russian plant. That was also confirmed too. So you're right. We can't believe these so-called confirmations, but let's listen to what the Pentagon says. And this is from ABC News. Breaking: the Pentagon, this is an hour ago, the Pentagon confirms that Wagner Group leader Prigozhin died in the Russian plane crash. And let's listen to what the Pentagon says about it.
Still can't confirm that, but it does look like that Prigozhin was killed in that plane crash, according to General Pat Ryder there at the Pentagon. Let's bring in foreign correspondent Tom Sufi-Burridge. He joins me now live from Kyiv. You've been following this from the very beginning. But Tom, he wouldn't get into any detail about how they came to that conclusion that likely Prigozhin was killed. You heard one of the reporters there in the room asking about these Russian media reports, if they are listening to these Russian media reports. Clearly, it's more than that, right? And the general just wouldn't answer that directly, just saying we have a number of ways to validate that we believe he likely was killed. I don't know. It seems like there's still some questions out there.
A lot of questions out there, Kira. I think, the main point here is that it is early days, right? So the Pentagon is being cautious still at this point in time. What they are doing, I think, is briefing the media, getting the message out that one theory, which has been reported pretty widely in the Western press, that potentially a surface-to-air missile or a missile had shot the plane down. The Pentagon is quite...
I did not hear that until this report.
The Pentagon.
This is the first time I'm hearing. This is the first time I'm hearing that.
The Pentagon confirmed, CJ. Believe it.
That's I was just about to get to that. Basically means this is a lie. I mean, you might as well just say this is a lie. The following message is a lie because the Pentagon confirmed it. More like the Pentagon is trying to plant a story or at least a narrative that usually takes you away from the actual source, which a lot of times is themselves. So let's listen. And I don't mean the Pentagon, but I mean the United States empire.
Clearly saying that is false. And Western intelligence, it is clear, if a missile is fired, Western intelligence normally can see a trail, a trace. They have the intelligence to pretty much quickly identify whether a missile was fired and even what type of missile could have been fired. So they're basically taking that theory out of the equation. Now, the most common other theory out there being reported, unconfirmed is that there was an explosion on board the plane. That's been reported very widely in the Russian media. Now, look, the Pentagon is not being drawn on that. They're not clearly being drawn either on whether or not Yevgeny Prigozhin, the one-time boss of Wagner, presumed dead on board this plane. They're not being drawn on whether or not he was assassinated. But, you know, you have to look at the big picture. Weeks ago, Yevgeny Prigozhin led that mutiny, thousands of troops.
What is your, I mean, we don't, this is all us just speculating. What is your thoughts on this? You kind of begin to say it in the beginning of the segment. Yeah, in the beginning of the segment. What are your thoughts on this being intentional, this being him being on board, him being killed, if he's killed or not, this being fake, who's behind it? Like, do you have any initial thoughts or feelings behind it, this story?
I think I don't know because we have no real legitimate information. I think everything is very new. Everything is very a lot of it's speculation. Again, this is a guy who was dead once before and then he wasn't, and now he's supposed to be dead again. It's very interesting timing. So I'm not sure really what I think of this yet as it continues to play out. But I think skepticism, 100% skepticism is needed at all times in this situation, for sure. No question about it. Question everything about this situation.
Right. And it's so hard because it's not exactly like we have honest actors in here. Like we can really believe what the media is saying. They're known liars. We can't really believe what these empires are saying, whether Russia or United. We can't really believe anybody. So we got to fill it out ourselves. And it's really, that speaks to not just this, that's in everything. There's like people don't have an outlet to get a truth, but Vladimir Putin finally chimed in on it, and this is his video. I may have to read a caption here. I think it's caption. I don't think it's a voiceover. Let's see.
Пригожина я знал очень давно.
So yeah, it's so I'll turn the volume down and then I'll read it as fast as I can. I'm not a fast reader, but we'll see. I have known Prigozhin for a long time. Since the early 1900s.
1990s.
Sorry, 1990s.
Yeah, I read really fast if you want me to do it.
Okay, yeah, if you can, please. Yeah, please do.
Yeah. Can you go back a little bit?
I'm going to go back. Yeah, I'm going to go back a little bit here.
Since the early 1990s, he was a man of difficult fate, and he made serious mistakes in life, and he achieved the results he needed, both for himself and when I asked him about it, for the common cause, as in these last months. He was a talented man, a talented businessman. As far as I know, he just returned from Africa yesterday and met with some officials here. But what is absolutely certain, the head of the investigative committee reported to me about it this morning. They had already begun a preliminary investigation of this incident, and it will be carried out in full. There is no doubt about it. I have known Prigozhin for a very long time. Oh, we're starting over.
It starts over. Yeah. Starts over. So, I mean, it doesn't really reveal much about what he thinks about it. It just, it's a
very
retelling of what he is and very shallow.
Generic. Yeah, it's just a very generic. I've known him for a long time. He's a talented businessman. You know what I mean? There's going to be an investigation. Oh God, Joe.
Yeah, let's hear what he says. Let's see if he sounds coherent. Let's see if he
he's gonna
knows.
Say, I know what it's like to die in a plane crash.
All right, so let's listen and see what he says.
I was asked about this by you. I said I'd be careful what I turn to what I wrote in. I don't know for a fact what happened, but I'm not surprised.
Do you believe?
You're not surprised by what? Again, it's
He's
an assumption that
took him out.
Yeah, that's the entire assumption that they're trying to push without pushing it. They're trying to say, I don't know, but Putin, you get what I'm saying? They're trying to act like they're not accusing it, but as they're doing
they are.
There's not much that happens when Russia is Putin not behind, but I don't know enough to know the answer. I've been working out for the last hour and a half.
He's been working out for the last hour and a half. This 80-year-old who falls down off of stages has been working out.
Listen. Anyway. I have a lady at my gym who's 86. Her name is Joyce, and she is there pretty much every single day. She has to do things incredibly scaled, but she's there every day and she does work out. So to be fair, he could be working out for an hour and a half. That's possible, but
does she have dementia though? You get what I'm saying?
No,
like
she's wicked smart and funny. Yeah.
Right. So, because you're right, there's a lot of 80-year-olds. I remember old school Jack LaLanne, if anybody knows that guy.
Yes.
He was old and was doing all types of stuff in his older age and was fine, but it doesn't apply to this guy. All right. So I was looking if there's anything that I didn't discover. So let me go to I didn't have yet that was new, and I played all of that. So I'll go to my bookmarks. And we'll read a little more. No, never mind. We've already read that part. So here is a headline from the AP, and it says Russian mercenary chief Prigozhin was aboard a plane that crashed on Wednesday, killing everyone on board. Russia's civilian aviation agency said. I'll read a little bit about this, and then for the last 15 minutes or so, we're gonna move on to the Tucker Carlson Trump interview. But let me read just a little bit about this. Again, you know, we're really just kind of this is less news we're reporting, where we're just kind of talking about a story with the few details we do have. Yeah, like
I think I'm leaning
we don't
towards
have
more
much
that
for this.
This is a CIA probably did this. It makes, if you think about it, it makes no sense for Putin to do this. It makes no sense, but he's not an idiot, and this would look incredibly bad for him if he took this guy out right now. So I mean, it's kind of the same thing as saying Assad gassed his own people at the time when it like absolutely, he's winning the war. The United States is leaving. Yeah, I'm going to gas my own people right now. It makes no sense, and that's kind of where I'm leaning here.
Doesn't make any sense.
And it could have just been an accident.
I felt
unlikely, but
that too.
Possible.
That too.
Yeah.
That too. And I also, this is another part that we haven't given too much detail. He was working in Africa with Niger, I believe.
Yeah, I think Putin sent him to Africa to get rid of him.
Right. Like Russia
hair,
wants that. Yeah, so I don't know,
Yeah.
but you see the headline here. Let's read a couple of paragraphs here just to see if there's any details missing. So Prigozhin, who led a brief armed rebellion against the Russian military earlier this year, was presumed dead Wednesday after a plane crash north of Moscow that killed all 10 on board. And understand, the second in command of the chief, the second in command, so the vice chief, I don't know if that's his title, he was also killed. Prigozhin was on the plane, according to Russia's civilian aviation agency, which cited the airline. The crash immediately raised suspicion, since the fate of the founder of Wagner private military company has been the subject of intense speculation ever since he mounted the music. It hasn't been in subject. It only has been a subject for the Western people, not from from everybody. At the time, Vladimir Putin denounced the rebellion as treason and a stab in the back and vowed to avenge it. But the charges against Prigozhin was soon dropped. The Wagner chief, whose troops were some of the best fighting forces for Russia and Ukraine, was allowed to retreat to Belarus, while reportedly popping in Russia from time to time. And it doesn't sound like anyone really has a lot of information on this story. Like we said, it's just a lot of speculation, but we did want to touch upon it just so that the little bit of details we had, we can get that to the people. And now, Misty, we're going to move on to another story for your last 10 or so minutes with me. And because I do want to get in on the interview Tucker Carlson did with Trump. We weren't able to cover it yesterday because it was so hard to go from the debate back to this, but now we have it. And Nick kind of prefaced it or gave us a heads up that it's kind of if it's not cringe worthy, it's at least a softball interview. And let me bring it up here. I'm sure it's at least a softball interview. So let's bring it
so
up
bad.
here.
It's so bad.
Have you watched all of it, parts of it? If you've watched any of it, can you give us your idea? Give us an idea what it's like, what it's about, what is your take on it before we get started?
Well, you just said it. It's a softball, and it is the definition of a softball interview. It is weak as fuck. Very little, zero hard questions were asked. It was very little substance. It was very, I mean, I really hope that people stop, kissing Tucker Carlson's ass at this point. Like, I understand a lot of people thought he was cool because always left his job at Fox News and blah, 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 blah. He's not cool. This is not cool. This is access journalism at its finest. He had the opportunity to ask Donald Trump anything you wanted to ask him. You got him right there. You're one of very few people that are ever going to get Donald Trump in front of you for an interview like this. And you it's weak sauce bullshit. It is such garbage. He didn't ask him about Assange. He didn't, they're just, it's bad. It's bad. It's so weak.
Okay.
Why do you think the media doesn't like you? What the fuck is that? What kind of question is that? Oh, terrible.
Yeah. So I guess maybe Trump called in a favor, and that's really
thanks
what
for joining
this
us.
is. But
Thank you. Why aren't you at the Fox News debate tonight?
We'll stop and play.
Well, a lot of people have been asking me that, and many people said you shouldn't do them. But you see, the polls have come out, and I'm leading by 50 and 60 points. And some of them are at 1 and 0 and 2. And I'm saying, do I sit there for an hour or 2 hours, whatever it's going to be, and get harassed by people that shouldn't even be running for president? Should I be doing that? And a network that isn't particularly friendly to me, frankly. They were backing Ron DeSanctimonious like crazy, and now they've given up on him. It's a lost cause. It reminded me very much of 2016.
I love, taking away the politics, his style of personality is a style of personality I would typically like how he just talks
He's
about.
entertaining.
Like
He is.
Yeah.
He's entertaining.
Yeah, I would typically like a personality like
he makes me laugh.
And I like how he calls out people nonchalantly as he's telling the story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He just calls them a particular
Ron
name or he'll point out.
Yeah.
Right. And I gotta say, I do love that name, Ron DeSanctimonious.
He's good at nicknames. You got to give him credit where it's due. But I also love the fact that he just said, should I waste my time going and getting harassed by people who shouldn't even be running for president? Well, what does that mean? Who should be running for president?
Right.
What the fuck does that mean?
What are that?
You're under numerous indictments. Should you be running for president? A lot of people would argue that you shouldn't be. So what the fuck does that mean, Trump? What does that mean? You know what I mean? I don't know, just silly.
And of course, Tucker does not push back or ask him about that. But let's listen.
Here, can I just really quickly?
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say that the idea that he wouldn't go and debate, it is going to take the sting out of any attacks that he's going to launch on Biden for Biden not holding debates. So I think that might have been a mistake because the DNC is not holding debates. I think that would have been a really easy thing for him to go after them for and to go after Biden on. I still don't think Biden's going to be the nominee, but I think it would have been really easy for him to go after the DNC on the idea that they weren't holding primaries or debates. But now the fact that he refused to go to this debate, that's going to take a lot of that fight out. And it may eliminate that as a possible point that he can make in the election. Just saying.
I agree.
16, I went through the same stuff and had to fight them all the way. And then they became very friendly after I won, or just about when I was winning. But I just felt it would be more appropriate not to do the debate. I don't think it's right to do it. If you're leading by 50, 60, I have one problem leading by 70 points. And I'm saying, why am I doing it? And I'm going to have 8 people, 10 people, whoever made the debate. I don't know how many it is, but I'm going to have all these people screaming at me, shouting questions at me, all of which I love answering, I love doing, but it doesn't make sense to do them. So I've taken a pass, as you probably noticed.
I did. I'm grateful that you did. It's interesting, though, because you spent a lot of your career in television.
Yeah.
You had a top show in television on NBC. But you don't feel the need now running for president to do television, obviously. Do you think television is declining?
Well, according to a poll that I guess we just saw, it just came out where it's down like 30, 35%. But I think they were referring to cable. I think cable's down because it's lost credibility. MSNBC, or as they say, MSDNC, is so bad.
This is what I mean. Like, he could have just said MSNBC and then he throws that in. Love that part about him. Let's continue.
And it's so wrong what they write and what they do and what they say. It's, it's fake news, as I said. I think I came up with that term. I hope I did, because it's a good one. It's not tough enough anymore. It's corrupt news. Really what you do is call it corrupt news, but somehow that doesn't play as nicely. But it is corrupt news. So you have MSNBC and you have CNN, who's absolutely doing no ratings at all. I mean, they're dead. But they're doing none because they don't have credibility. They really don't have credibility. Fox is way down, as you know. And the good old days are long ago. I will say this, it could come back, but they just don't have a lot of credibility. Tucker, you know that perhaps better than anybody. I think it was a terrible move getting rid of you. You were number one on television, and all of a sudden we're doing this interview, but we'll get bigger ratings using this crazy forum that you're using than probably the debate or competition.
That's right.
When you say there are people on...
Yeah, and to that point, Misty, I don't know if you have the exact numbers. When I looked at it last night, when we were 40 minutes into the debate, they were already at 75 million views. Like 40 minutes into the debate, I don't even know. I mean, it was got to be well over 100 million views by now. The next day. And
well, everything he just said there is correct. Mainstream media is dying, corporate media is dying, cable in general, TV is dying. Everybody's moving to streaming, everybody's moving to Tucker's on Twitter, and there's a bunch of people on Rumble, and I think that's really where things are moving. So he's absolutely right about that. And he's right that he got more ratings than them. There's no question about it. And I think everybody was expecting that. Anybody who was not expecting Trump to get bigger ratings. And so in some respects, it might have been smart for him to avoid the debate, because then he does avoid getting asked tough questions or having his opponents be able to hammer him on certain things. He probably knew that Tucker was going to be a very friendly interviewer, and there was probably discussions about what would be talked about beforehand. It's probably why he agreed to it. But it is going to take sting out of any attacks he would be able to launch at the Democratic Party on the issue of debates. So, I mean, you just have to weigh the pros and cons of that, I guess, when you're making those decisions, for sure. I'm sure his lawyers are probably like, don't do it, dude. Don't go on the debate stage, dude. Don't do it. Because he has no gift for subtlety. He just says things out loud that you're not supposed to say out loud. And he almost certainly would have incriminated himself on the debate.
Yeah, so they probably said, hey, you don't want to have tens of millions of witnesses of you incriminating yourself. Why you just not go?
Yeah.
Let's listen to a little more of this softball.
On stage who shouldn't be running for president. Who do you mean?
Well, I don't want to really use names, but it wouldn't matter too much. A guy like, I call him Ada Hutchinson. It's Asa, but I call him Ada.
Why do you call him Ada?
I could tell you, but I don't want to get myself in a little trouble. But he's weak.
I bet it's American Disabilities Act.
I never understood the guy. Never knew him. He was the governor of Arkansas. Not a very popular guy. I don't know how but that state is such a great state. The people are so incredible in that state, and they love me and I love them. How does this guy get elected governor of Arkansas? But he's nasty always, and has been. A guy like Chris Christie, the guy left with a 8%, think of it, 8% approval rating in New Jersey. Now he's running for president, and he runs solely on the basis, let's get Trump. He's like a savage maniac. He's like a lunatic. And that's all he talks about. His poll numbers are very, very low. He's about 2%.
What's he like? You know him well.
Oh, I've been friendly with him over the years, but I couldn't give him a job because I just never trusted him very much. I was just never.
Yeah, and if we recall, and I'll pause here. And if we recall, it was a whole thing with Jared Kushner because Chris Christie put Jared Kushner's father away in prison for some financial crimes. And so I'm recalling they were saying something about him getting a position, but then it ended up he didn't get it, and it was because Jared Kushner didn't kind of put the kibosh on it. Do you have the same recollection, Misty, of that event, or is there something I'm missing there?
No, I think that's. I remember I don't remember the specific details of it, but I do remember there being some behind the scenes stuff that.
Shenanigans.
Yeah, there were shenanigans, and I don't know the specifics of it, so I don't know who would. And there probably wasn't anybody who was right or wrong. It was probably just a big clusterfuck of wrong. But yeah, it's the idea that Trump says he can't trust somebody, but you hired Bolton and Pompeo and Nikki Haley, and those are all people who not only are awful human beings and everybody knew they were. It's not like it was a secret that Trump got bamboozled. Oh, these are really great people. No, everybody knew they sucked, and then they've all since turned their backs on him. So obviously he doesn't have a very good judge of character.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we'll pause here to send you on your way. I'll probably go on another 20 minutes just to finish out another story, not this story, but another story. So, but
thanks for keeping me on time.
Yeah, that's because I plan on leaving on time another 20 minutes myself. I wasn't supposed to go today, but anytime like we don't have a stream, sometime if I have time, I'll jump on because we like to have a live stream per day. And I should make that announcement. There is no Sabby, Nick and CJ. I'm sorry. There is no Sabby and JB show today. They're going to be off. They're doing something else today. So that's why I came on to do this. So it'll be shorter than normal. But Misty, tell people where they can find you tonight on your radio show, and also just any other spots where they can find you. Anything coming up?
Well, I'm on Twitter all the time at Sarcasm Stardust. You can check out my Substack. There's a write-up every day for the guest that's going to be on the day for that day. Indy does a great job of running that for me. And that's mistywinston.substack.com. And then my show is Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. TNT Radio. You can go to tntradio.live, and there's also an app on the Google Play and the App Store and all that stuff. And as I mentioned earlier, tonight I have Kyle Anslone, so we're going to be talking about Prigozhin and BRICS and all the foreign policy stuff. So definitely tune in for that. And thanks for having me. I always have a blast when I come on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for kind of jumping in here last minute. Love to get your rants, and thank you again. I'll put you in the back.
Yeah, thanks guys.
Make sure you check out her radio show. It's later this evening, and there is one more story I want to make sure I get to before we got out of here, because I covered the BRICS, because we need to cover everything on the thumbnail. But I do want to check out a couple of clips from the interview that they had. Everybody's reposting the full interview, but there's a clip I'm looking for here. Is this it? I think this. Somebody's pointing that out. Anyway, that's not it. So let's read this here. This might be. I thought it was a video. Breaking more than 145 million views for one interview. This is greater than the total views of all interviews conducted by mainstream media combined this entire year in the US of A. Tucker and Trump, that's a deadly combination for mainstream media and the Republican National Convention operatives who still don't get it. And that's from that African reporter. That's who this guy is, who got the numbers of the Trump interview. Now, I'm probably not going to play the rest of it. I can't go through, 45 minutes of just drooling over somebody. And this is when I saw it 19 hours ago. He was reporting that 74 million people had watched it at the time. So those are some pretty astounding numbers for 145 million. Let's listen to this, and we'll close out this segment on this video. This video I did have saved, but I saw it here. I can just play it for
Yeah. Given we know Bakari, Donald Trump's not going to be showing up and he's going to be trying to counter program. And then you have on Thursday, him turning himself in, as Kevin rightly put, is going to steal a lot of the spotlight. What do you think? Because I know you are always in the business of giving advice to Republicans. What do you think a win looks like on the debate stage tomorrow?
Yeah, they don't listen to my advice, though. Goodness gracious. So, look, I think there are a few things. The first is that I somewhat disagree with my friend, my colleague today, about who has the most to lose and the most to gain, and that being Ron DeSantis. And the reason being is because we actually have DeSantis' work product. I mean, Ron DeSantis got mollywopped in a debate by Andrew Gillum, and he got destroyed by Charlie Crist. And I'm not sure Charlie Crist is anybody's example of what a glowing political candidate should be at this stage in his career. And so we actually know how he debates and how poorly he debates. For me, I think that it's kind of going to go South Carolina, meaning Tim Scott and Nikki Haley with the most upside. Then Donald Trump, even though he's not there, probably having an opportunity to win the debate. And then the third tier is going to be those individuals who actually have some fortitude, who stand up against Donald Trump. And those two individuals right now are only Asa Hutchinson and Chris Christie. So I think those are the three tiers of individuals who have an opportunity to win tomorrow night. And just for the record, Donald Trump's counter programming is horrible. I don't think anybody's going to be watching Tucker Carlson on Twitter or X or whatever it's called now. And I don't think anybody's going to be responsive to his quote unquote counter programming. However, regardless of if Nikki and Tim, who are talented, who do give a vision for the future, politically we disagree, but it seems to be healthy for the Republican Party. Even if they have a good night, that's going to be short-lived, because at 6 a.m. people will be talking about something else.
So I wanted to play that clip. Most of it wasn't about the topic, but it was just so you can hear that small part where he says nobody's going to be watching the Tucker Trump interview. Now, it is a softball interview, but we've just proven that 174 million, I think it said 174 million views. Was it 174? I want to give this quote right. Was it 174? Let's see. Anyway, I think it was 174. I'll leave it at that. Let's get to the next story. And this one's a little more lighthearted. This one's a little more upbeat. I'm going to start out with my RBN brother Nick's video on the topic. And if you hadn't heard the news, yeah, the GOP debate's going on, but BRICS is also going on. BRICS 2023 in Africa and South Africa has also been going on. So this is going to be a quick segment. This is, like I said, RBN brother Nick did a video on BRICS, and let's listen.
You're witnessing the end of U.S. hegemonic dominance and a shift towards de-dollarization. That is the message you're hearing from Xi Jinping, Putin, and Lula as they meet at the latest BRICS summit, where they discuss de-dollarization and expanding membership for their bloc. This is why this summit is so significant, because you have leaders in at least 23 nations that express desire to join BRICS. And BRICS as a bloc already surpassed the G7 in terms of GDP. So you have BRICS that represents around 40% of the population, 30% of the global trade, and a fourth of the world's economy that united behind the goal of de-dollarization. Woo, we are fucking screwed, fam. It's been a long time coming, fam, because it's not a coincidence that the countries that make up a BRICS and the nations who want to join BRICS have all been victims of Western imperialism and Western sanctions. Lula, for example, has been a harsh critic of Russian sanctions and have been calling for peace talks in Ukraine. Lula has been a harsh critic of the IMF as well, and that's why he's been calling for Argentina to join BRICS, because he blames the IMF for help bankrupting Argentina. BRICS has a lot of work to do, and they're not perfect, but providing an alternative for countries who've been victims of the IMF and U.S. sanctions is nothing but a great thing, and anti-imperialists should be rooting for them. We are witnessing the end of U.S. hegemonic dominance.
Man, I've been fucking up. Been on mute this entire time. My apologies. Because my chat is not working. So I'm sure all of you have been sitting in the chat, but my chat is not working. So I'll just go over the three slides that I missed here. And I'm sure once the chat comes back up, all of you have been telling me to go to my chat, but the chat is not working right now. And again, my apologies for that. Hang on a second here. I'm having a bunch of things happen to my computer. Okay. All right. So the chat is still down. I'm going to see if I can refresh the chat. Yeah, chat is still down. Hopefully it comes up in a little bit. But anyway, I'll go over the 3 slides that I just showed here for this segment. I don't understand why the chat is not working here. All right, so it's not working. So anyway, I'll go back to what I was saying here. And my apologies, Aaron is probably like, "Fuck." My apologies, Aaron. Yeah, you're gonna have to redo this, but it'll be okay. You will have to redo this. So let's go all the way back. Now you may have heard the video, but because I'm starting the entire segment all the way over, I do got to start all the way over with the presentation. But first, let's start with this here. We're going to start with Richard Medhurst's tweet. And we're going to start with the groups that are going to be added. So this is pretty big news here. And the reason it's big news about BRICS, and the reason it's big news is because of the fact, and I was muted with all of this. So the reason this is, or this BRICS summit is such a big deal, or is turning out to be such a big deal, is for many reasons. One of which is the addition, or the possible addition, of Saudi Arabia. Now, 23 countries were interested in joining BRICS for this summit. They had interest, and it now has been revealed that the 6 countries that will actually be officially admitted. And here are the 6 countries. This is from Richard Medhurst, and I'm going to play the video along with the announcement. But let's read what Richard says. Historic. BRICS has invited 6 new countries to join. The rise of the global south and the multipolarism accelerates as the obsolete regime of Western hegemony dwindles into irrelevance. The new BRICS members will be Egypt, Ethiopia, Argentina, UAE, that's United Arab Emirates, Iran, and the big one, in my opinion, is Saudi Arabia. We'll get into a little bit more detail of that, but let's listen to the announcement of it. And this is, I think this is the South African president.
We have decided to invite the Argentine Republic, the Arab Republic of Egypt, the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, the Islamic Republic of Iran, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates to become full members of BRICS. The membership will take effect from the 1st of January 2024. We have
So you heard. That's the official announcement, and Richard Medhurst is actually covering it. He was credentialed to cover this event. And now why Saudi Arabia and some of the other countries, why this makes this such a huge deal, is because of this fact right here. With the addition of these 6 countries, breaking, 6 of the world's 9 biggest oil producers will be members of BRICS as of January 2024. That's 4 months away. So within 4 months, BRICS, the members of BRICS will be 6 of the 9 top oil producing countries, and I believe that translates into about 80%. I think I've seen the numbers of 79, 80% of oil all oil production. Now, we're climate change activists. We want all of these sort of oil production to end, but yet and still, this is huge when you're talking about the world economy and resources. So let's go to another receipt here, and I'm doing it backwards since I was muted and I started the other way. Let's do it a little backwards as far as a receipt wise. Now, here you see the Iranian president with Xi Jinping on the sidelines at BRICS, and they're talking about, this is after the announcement of them becoming full-fledged members of BRICS in just 4 months. So there's no particular sound on here. This is just them showing with some handshakes and meeting at the summit of BRICS. And let's go to another receipt here. We did that one. We're going to come back to that article because that is an important article. I'll read the headline here. This is from Telesur, and it says, Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel celebrated the expansion of the BRICS group, which will admit 6 new countries, including Argentina. Okay, we'll read this one. This is Black in the Empire. BRICS expanded by 6 countries. 40 countries expressed interest in joining BRICS. So he says 40 here. African countries are kicking out the West and flying Russian flags. Looks to me like it's the U.S. and their vassals that are totally isolated, not Russia. And I think that's a response to, Russia's isolated. Russia and China has isolated themselves. And that's something they always say. Now let's get to Nick's video that kind of talks about one part of this, and that's the de-dollarization as a result of these BRICS nations. Let's listen to Nick.
You're witnessing the end of U.S. hegemonic dominance and a shift towards de-dollarization. That is the message you're hearing from Xi Jinping, Putin, and Lula as they meet at the latest BRICS summit, where they discuss de-dollarization and expanding membership for their bloc. This is why this summit is so significant, because you have leaders in at least 23 nations that express desire to join BRICS. And BRICS as a bloc already surpassed the G7 in terms of GDP. So you have BRICS that represents around 40% of the population, 30% of the global trade, and 1/4 of the world's economy that united behind the goal of de-dollarization. Woo, we are fucking screwed, fam. It's been a long time coming, fam, because it's not a coincidence that the countries that make up a BRICS and the nations who want to join BRICS have all been victims of Western imperialism and Western sanctions. Lula, for example, has been a harsh critic of Russian sanctions and have been calling for peace talks in Ukraine. Lula has been a harsh critic of the IMF as well, and that's why he's been calling for Argentina to join BRICS, because he blames the IMF for help bankrupting Argentina. BRICS has a lot of work to do, and they're not perfect, but providing an alternative for countries who've been victims of the IMF and U.S. sanctions is nothing but a great thing, and anti-imperialists should be rooting for them.
I know that me and everybody over here at RBN are rooting for BRICS. Some people call us BRICS stands. And yeah, I'm completely fine with that. Like he said, BRICS has issues, and some of the members have issues, but breaking U.S. hegemony and imperialism supersedes that, and in our sort of opinions. All right, so let's get to the next receipt on BRICS, because we're leading up to the article where they talk about it, but I do want to get through a couple of.
You're witnessing the end of U.S. hegemonic dominance and a shift towards de-dollarization.
How do I pause it?
That is the message you're hearing.
The fuck? Okay, I pause it. All right, so here we go. West tried every trick in the book to sabotage BRICS Now let's watch this video. Now this is a longer video. This is RT, but this is some great information. We'll stop and start and make comments. Let's listen.
Incredible guests, and we have another one right now. Mahasha Rampedi, the editor-in-chief of African Times, is here with us in our rooftop studio to share his thoughts on the BRICS and what it stands for. Now, let's start off with just how popular the BRICS summit has been this year. Over 40 countries want to be a part of this group. Why is it so popular, do you think?
Look, we're dealing with a watershed BRICS summit. You know that ahead of the start of the BRICS summit, you had 20 plus countries lining up to join the BRICS summit. However, if you look at the agenda, the BRICS summit for the first time in as many years was scheduled to discuss the expansion of the BRICS bloc, to decide on the de-dollarization of the world, and to also decide on how to approach geopolitics. It has never happened before in the history of the BRICS summit that you have the summit and its leaders sitting down despite all the enormous pressure from the West. Ahead of the summit, you had the West threatening South Africa with removal from AGOA, threatening India with sanctions if they were to continue associating with President Putin. They imposed tariff barriers on China and orchestrated the so-called arrest warrant against President Putin. They tried every trick in the book to try and sabotage or create a crisis around this summit. However, to their credit, the BRICS members, they withstood all this pressure, met here in Johannesburg. And if you check what happened on the first day of the summit, they spoke in one voice. They promised to debate and finalize the issue of the expansion of the bloc. They promised to decide on alternative payment mechanisms. And they also decided to push for the reform of the UN Security Council. Those were very much important.
Yeah, they say timing is everything. Why now are these things only just being discussed? Why not in the past? Why now?
Look, a lot has happened in geopolitics. You would know that for a long time, the international order was a unipolar world led by America. They called the shots. But if you check what has happened in recent years, you had the rise of China, which counterbalanced the world economic systems. You had Russia proving militarily in Ukraine that is not a pushover, and it went toe-to-toe against NATO and succeeded. So you had the West, which for a long time had been using the dollar or the financial systems as well as the military might to dictate terms. But now you have Russia and China on the one side, counterbalancing militarily and economically. So the world, or the developing world, or the global south have now for a long time, and for the first time, realized that they are no longer at the mercy of the West. There is the BRICS Development Bank. They don't have to be vulnerable and literally beg the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank to get any loans. For the first time, they don't have to be vulnerable and literally dance to the tune of the Americans simply because if they dare implement an independent foreign policy, they will then be attacked militarily. There's Russia to protect them, there's China to protect them and give them alternative loans if they don't want to be forced to implement the foreign policy of the West.
And speak.
Did you hear that? He has an accent, but you can understand him very clearly. So if you want something, if you want help, monetary help, but you don't want to have to institute Western values into your country, reach out to BRICS. That's essentially what he's saying here, which is why countries in Africa are finally sort of getting fed up and saying to hell with the West and going towards China and Russia, flying Russian flags, as he was stating earlier. So let's continue with the clip.
Speaking of geopolitical stability and balance,
many African countries are potentially new members of the BRICS. What does that mean for the continent's economy and stability?
Look, it means a lot. If you had Algeria in the north, which is a regional power, you have Nigeria in the west, which is a regional power, and now you're going to have Egypt in the north also as a regional power. You are talking about big powers on the continent. They are now going to potentially join forces with Saudi Arabia, join forces with Iran, join forces with Argentina, Malaysia. We're talking about regional powers from the global south, which together, when they join the current BRICS member states, who, at least as we speak now, they account for at least 32% of the global GDP. They account for more than 40% of the global population. When you bring all those new countries into the picture, automatically you are going to give the West and their multilateral institutions, especially the G7, a run for their money. You are talking about countries which combined, they've got the oil, they've got the resources, they've got the technology, they've got governance systems, they've got the military might. So it's important for Africa because for a long time, Africa was vulnerable to the West. They did as they pleased. Look what's happening in the Sahel now. You had France being there for a very long time, but the Sahel was never a peaceful environment. If you go to Niger now, there is a coup, but that coup is popular. It's one of those popular coups. Why? Because France for a long time did as it pleased in the Sahel without necessarily developing the region. You go to Mali, you go to Burkina Faso, you had popular coups. It's one of those rare phenomena where democracy appears to have failed the people. And as a result, Africans are now uniting behind young leaders who are leading popular coups, but at the same time, sending neo-colonialists back home. They are saying to their people that, look, we had to intervene militarily. Why? Because democracy.
He's talking about the coups, and the reason I had to play it because I'm interested, very intrigued about this information myself, and I'm also trying to report it to you, but I'm interested in this information myself and what he's saying, just to hear the reasoning and the analysis of words like colonialist when he's referring to the West. This is the future. This is historic. So let's get to a couple of more receipts. We don't need to finish that video. Man, this is historic. I'm gonna get this prepared to read, and I'll read the headline that's here now. And the headline says, "BRICS to officially abandon the U.S. dollar." And I think that's all the videos. Yeah, that's all the videos I had. So let me now move to this article, and we're going to close with this article. So let's stop sharing that. And there we go. So I'll stop sharing that, and I will start to share the article. And this is I'll give you the source in just a second. Yeah, I'll give you the source. The source is watcher.guru. And let's close this here. Okay, here we go. BRICS to officially abandon the U.S. dollar. I'm going to blow this up a little bit here for my own sake. I'm the one with the vision problem. This was written today, actually. So let's continue, or let's read. According to Brazil's president, the BRICS Economic Alliance is officially set to abandon the U.S. dollar for trade settlements. Moreover, the development aligns with recent de-dollarization efforts embraced by the bloc. As they continue to promote the use of local currencies internationally, Brazil's president Lula confirmed the development at this week's BRICS summit. Additionally, the bloc announced its agreement to expand, changing the geopolitical landscape. The alliance is set to welcome 6 additional countries by 2024. Oops, there's a lot of pop-ups on this here. BRICS officially moving away from US dollar for trade. The highly anticipated BRICS summit arrived this week with the entire world watching, specifically the geopolitical sector sought to see what could come from the gathering. A focus had been placed on both local currency development and potential expansion. Now, after expansion had already been announced, the BRICS is set to officially abandon the US dollar for trade settlement. The move falls in line with the economic policies the bloc had been set to embrace and was confirmed by Brazil's president. Ultimately, it is set to have a notable impact on the performance of the greenback in impending months. And you see sort of the handshaking with Putin and MBS with this new a coalition. And there was one other thing, I think. Oh no, that's in another language. I think I might have another article. Let me just go back to Twitter and see if I have it there. I do not recall. And then we'll get out of here. But let me see if I have another article to share on this. Now, with BRICS, I mean, this is a lot of information. So even in this segment, I'm not covering everything, all the developments. We'll probably have to do that over time. So that will be the case. I do want to bring up this other one here. And I think I'll end with this slide. I'll end with this slide here. And let me read. It says, new composition of BRICS. This is where I got the 80%. Okay, so this is where I got the 80% of oil production. So new composition of BRICS will control 80% of world oil production. With the additions of Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Iran to the BRICS, the union will be able to control the lion's shares of world's oil production. The same goes for the sharp GDP growth of the new BRICS countries. It will amount to 30% of the world's GDP and exceed 30 trillion. Like I said, BRICS is the future, and there is where we're going to cut it and close out this stream. My apologies again. I was muted for maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes, something like that. No, 10 minutes, maybe 10 minutes. I was muted. So you will skip past that and then I'll redo the segment. So my apologies again for that. Let's see. I like to do this every now and then where I go through my feed just to see what people are posting, see if I have missed anything, any breaking news. And look who pops up first. That's Rome with this one. It says Karl Marx did not invent socialism, communism, and he couldn't if he wanted to. Kwame Ture debunks this before you were born. Do not let them to continue to whitewash our history. And let's play it. Yeah.
It hasn't gone anywhere. It has been betrayed, yes. But betrayal doesn't mean collapse. Perhaps they get confused because at least Judas had the dignity after betraying Christianity to hang himself. Gorbachev is still running around the world picking up pieces of silver. Must be clear here and not confused. I'm a socialist. One other thing I must tell you now. They confuse people about socialism. Brother the other day said, "Why ain't no socialist?" I said, "Why not, brother?" He said, "Because it's a white thing." I said, "Oh, really?" You see, Europe tries to make believe that everything that comes out of the world comes out of Europe. I told the man, I said, "Socialism ain't no white thing." He said, "Yes, it is." He said, "Karl Marx discovered it." I told him, Karl Marx never discovered socialism. He cannot. You call the laws of gravity Newton's laws. I'm sure there's a mnemonic device to help you on your quizzes. But you certainly cannot believe that Isaac Newton can found that a body falls at the rate of 32 feet per second squared per second squared. He can't find this. He can't discover it. He cannot invent this. He can only observe it and record it, discover the law. If I'm sitting in Timbuktu in Africa and I've never heard of Sir Isaac Newton and I'm conducting any experiments with gravity, I will come to the same conclusion that he does. A body in motion tends to stay in motion unless stopped by an outside force. He cannot invent this. He can only observe it and record it. Karl Marx did not invent socialism. If I'm sitting in Libya in the desert and I'm doing any research with capital and labor without ever having heard of Karl Marx, I will come to the same conclusion that he did. That any time capital seeks to dominate labor, there'll be a ruthless, uncompromising struggle on the part of labor until it comes to crush capital and dominate it. This is a fact. My history demonstrates that. We came here as chattel slaves for centuries. We fought and fought and fought until we crushed it. Now we're just slave of the wage, and now we've got to rise up and crush that one. That's to declare that Karl Marx didn't invent socialism. It's there for all to see. Karl Marx's great contribution to the world was in the area of historical materialism and dialectical materialism, something you need to know if you know about socialism. But since you don't know about socialism, you don't even know the words. And not only does the enemy keep you ignorant, you stay ignorant. You won't ever go read a book about socialism. Why read a book about socialism? They already told me in my class it ain't no good. You will not even read a book about socialism. Why, you don't even read a book about your history. We come to inspire you to learn. We come to tell you that when you come to serve a people, you must know as much as you can. The more you know, the better able you are to serve the people.
So that's a clip Rome posted. It looks like he was quote tweeting somebody, and Rome posted that. So shout out to Rome. Thank you for the clip. And then we have Danny Haifong. It says, while BRICS grows as an alternative to U.S. hegemony, this is what young Biden in the U.S. have to look forward to. Oh, wow. Let's look at this one here. Bidenomics. Newlyweds in San Francisco looking for a nice one-bedroom, zero-bath starter tent. And that's a meme talking about Bidenomics. They're really trying to tell us that, trying to convince us that everybody's doing well in this economy when everybody's not doing well in this economy. So let's see what else I got in my feed here. That's more BRICS news. Am I following this BRICS account? I am. Okay. That's more BRICS news, or that's the video of speaking about BRICS and the new. Let me see if it has voiceover content though.
BRICS. Только что бразильский коллега.
Yeah, we'll have to read it, so never mind. All right. Any other breaking information? It says Eric Clapton. This is Max Blumenthal. Eric Clapton says he nearly withdrew his support from RFK when RFK turned against Roger Waters and launched into a series of anti-Palestinian tirades. I didn't know if I could honestly support this when Robert said I'm pro-Israel. So that's a new story out on Rock Celebrities. Eric Clapton revealed what he truly thinks about Roger Waters amid controversy. So you can check that out. Here is Nico Howe says the RNC is doing its best to impress the best impression of the DNC. Larry Elder was banned from the debates for the most ridiculous reason. And I briefly covered this, or we briefly played the video yesterday of Larry Elders talking about this during the debate. Let's listen to Nico Howe's coverage of this.
So it looks like the RNC is going to do its best impression of the DNC this election because it banned Larry Elder from the debate despite the fact that he met all the criteria. And the arbitrary reason they banned him will remind you even more of the DNC's antics. Now, Larry met the fundraising goal, achieving at least 40,000 unique donors. And he even met the minimum requirement for polling, saying you have to have at least 1% in 3 major polls. But despite meeting those qualifications, they reached back out to Larry Elder at the last minute and said that he was barred from the debate because the Rasmussen poll is somehow linked to Donald Trump. Y'all smell that? That shit smells like Debbie Washington Schultz. I don't know. Does that smell like that to you? First of all, Larry came out and said, well, I didn't know they had any relationship with Donald Trump. Also, Rasmussen came out and said very clearly, we have no relationship with Donald Trump. Also, before this moment, there was never a single time where the RNC came out and said that they wouldn't use Rasmussen as a qualifying poll specifically because of Donald Trump. And they've always used the Rasmussen poll as a qualifying poll before this moment. So, also, what the fuck? What does Larry Elder's campaign have to do with Donald Trump? Like, just like that would be a reason to maybe ban Donald Trump if that was one of his only qualifying polls. But now Larry Elder, who's running his own separate campaign. What the RNC doesn't realize is that, one, this just makes them look scared of Larry Elder. And 2, it just makes them look salty as hell that Donald Trump and Tucker, after Trump decided not to debate, got 150 million views on their interview, while the RNC and Fox News are literally terrified to release their ratings from their debate as of the time of me recording this video. All I'm saying is, I know a lot of people who said they would never support the Democrats again because they're cheaters, because they support people like Debbie Washington Schultz, who eventually cheated in favor of people like Hillary Clinton. And then Eric Perez cheated in favor of candidates like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. So like Republicans and conservatives, are you going to keep that same energy and realize that you are in fact backing just one half of the uniparty? There is no difference. It just looks different.
Yeah, like I said, they're not identical twins, they're fraternal twins, so they look different, but that's still but they still are twins, and that's the Democratic and Republican Party. Hold on a second here. Okay, now I know where I'm at. All right, so let's go back to that. Where's it at? My bad. Let's go back to the feed. So this is actually working out well. Those are 2 clips that I got. Oh, this is a funny clip I forgot to show. I think that's it. Yeah, it shows Ron. Anyway, I'll show it another time. Oh wow, what's going on here? Are you talking about this, Graham? Graham said something? Oh, wait. Oh, is this some more Graham, Jimmy Dore brief? Let's play it before we get out of here. I'm not playing those 6 damn videos, though. Am I? Unless it's good. I'm not playing 6 damn videos, bro. Let's see.
And apologize to Jimmy. Oh, you're hilarious. You want to spend money to say that? Hey, thanks for supporting our show. Jimmy owes me an apology. He let Max Blumenthal come on his show and badmouth me, and Jimmy never got my back. Jimmy's a bad friend. He never got, if somebody came on my show and badmouth Jimmy the way Max badmouthed me, 2 things would happen. 1, I would have gone after the guy in my show. And 2, Jimmy would have gone nuts. So why don't you stop drinking the Kool-Aid? You're in a cult. You want to keep supporting our show? Go for it. Jimmy owes me an apology, and he's an alcoholic, and alcoholics never admit they're wrong. People have left his show. Look at the long list of people that no longer work for him. Okay? Working for Jimmy was great and then now he's a right winger. He's done climate denial videos. He's done transphobic videos. He said Rittenhouse should have been freed. So those are all right wing talking points. So you need to apologize to yourself for being such a sucker that's falling for an alcoholic cult leader. Sorry, I have to address that over and over again. Thanks. I've addressed it for 2 years. I've addressed that thing for 2 years. I'm owed an apology. I'm owed an apology, a big one. I'm owed a financial apology. I'm owed a big apology. I bet you this is like a Jimmy burner account. Jimmy's such a little egomaniac. He would probably create a fake account just to do this.
So it looks like somebody is sending them super chats, but with questions about Jimmy, but like a perspective of, I guess, advocating for Jimmy. And this is the response. So somebody, the Indie News responds here. This is crazy. I'm just going through my feed. I'm not,
America's
this is
a
not a
crazy
story.
place. You
I'm
talk
just
to people that live
looking at
outside
my
of this
feed
country and they're like, what is going on? You guys are insane.
Yeah, we're Mad Max here.
America's nuts. America's just out to lunch. nuts. Jimmy's going live. I don't give a fuck if Jimmy's going live. Hospitals are full with unvaccinated COVID patients, Jimmy. If you have a stroke, a heart attack, God forbid you were Steph, get injured, heart attack, whatever, car accident, they might not have bed space for you. And that's where I'm mad at the anti-mandate left, because I thought the left was about we're all in this together.
Does the vaccine protect you from the fucking virus or not?
Now they're talking doctor talk.
Okay. And if it protects you from the fucking virus, if it's good, that so much so that you're going to make someone else take it, then why don't you fucking believe it protects you? Why do you need someone else to take something to protect you? If it protects us, then you're protected if you took it, right?
Right, but again, it comes back to the hospital beds. I mean,
so now you change, but that's the different argument.
Me, Graham Elwood, I'm
Yes.
vaccinated. So
This COVID stuff, I'm not the one to know about, because this is one of the topics that I'm not all that on. Is this COVID? COVID is a real thing. COVID is a tragedy. COVID was a lot of things, corruption, a lot of things they were trying to do with COVID. At the same time, there's people that's making COVID a thing that it's not to me, and just I'll leave it there. But this is crazy. I mean, I don't speak to my brother really that much over a COVID related thing. It's not specifically COVID, but it was something that happened during the pandemic, I should say, that resulted from that. So I don't really associate with him because of that. But this shit is ridiculous right here. I don't know. I heard that Graham and Jimmy had something going on, and I didn't know the details, and I didn't know until recently it was over the pandemic. But this is ridiculous to me. But another thing I found in my feed. So I should do this all the time. Just scroll through my feed so everybody can see what I see. Here's another one. This is Mint Press News. And this was what Mick Wallace from Australia. We've seen him. We've done many clips
US
on him.
blockade. Those criticizing the PDCA call out human rights abuses in Cuba, but are silent on the human rights impact of the illegal US blockade of the island. They deny the achievements of the Cuban government in the face of relentless economic terrorism. The democratic provision of nutrition, healthcare, education, housing and employment. Advances in sustainable agriculture, medical care and technology. If we genuinely care about Cuba, we will be doing more to support.
My bad. Everybody. Anyway, Cornel West clackback at Vivek. Wait, what? Oh, this is real. This is Tim Black. And if you guys didn't see it, Tim Black squashed the beef he had with RBN. So shout out Tim Black. Is that what this is right here? Oh no, it's not. It's a longer clip, so I don't have time to do a 10-minute clip. If it was a snippet, I would play that clip there. All right, I think that's it. And there's nothing else, no breaking news, nothing too crazy. What is this one? Yes, there is a basis for the United Kingdom to pay reparations. United Nations Judge Patrick Hood calls for the UK to pay reparations for the transatlantic slave trade. Okay, so there's that clip. Okay, so let's listen to this one. This is a snippet from the Tucker Trump sit down where he talks about Tucker claims China is conducting imperialism in our hemisphere. Let me see what this
is. Why is China allowed to conduct imperialism in our hemisphere?
That's our U.S. bases. There's China's.
China plans to rule the world.
I'm gonna play this again. That's a freaking That's a dope ass clip, and we'll leave it with this clip here. It shows the 1,000 bases we have in this clip. So let's play it again.
Why is China allowed to conduct imperialism in our hemisphere?
China imperialism, global China military base, 1. I love that video. That's from Breakthrough News. All right, so I was just shooting the shit with everybody for a little bit. Now I'm gonna take off. Thanks for shooting the shit with me this last couple of moments. Yeah, no, I'm hearing I'm seeing some comments on. Seeing some comments on Graham. Like I'm still fine with Graham. You know, I don't hear and see it from him that often. But we don't have any issues in particular with him. To my knowledge, Jimmy has never badmouthed Graham like that in a video. He said he disagreed with his position, but never smeared him. Yeah. I just don't know enough about the situation, the genesis of it, and what happened. I don't know. I got too much stuff. Now, what I can comment on is that from the video I saw, Graham is for mandates, and I'm not for mandates whatsoever. I'm not for mandates whatsoever. Also, I must say, because they mentioned COVID, pandemic, and some other stuff, so I must say this for YouTube, so they won't give us a strike. We believe in the vaccinations. COVID was not an op. We believe in the recommendations of the CDC and the WHO. Vaccinations do work. I'm trying to think what else I could say to make sure we're covered here. I think that's it. Just making sure there are no comments here. Yeah. It says Graham is right on COVID, though. Somebody else said something else. Let me see where's that. I disagree with Graham on the virus. That's not the one I was looking for. His channel took a hit. All right, I'm just shooting this shit. Let me get out of here because I'll be sitting here for a while. Okay, here's the other opposite comment. Graham is totally wrong on COVID. Creative experiments and Graham together and wrong. All I have to say is I'm not for mandates, and that's all I'm going to comment on. But let's get out of here. Thank you everybody for watching. Hit the thumbs up button on your way out. I don't see any other significant sort of videos to play, so I'll leave it at that. Oh, let's see what's happening with it sounds like the UPS vote went through according to that. It sounds like so yeah, it sounds like it, unfortunately, it sounds like it did go through, unfortunately. So all right, everybody, I'm gonna get out of here. I've been shooting this shit too long with everybody while it's a mugshot. Rudy Giuliani, how far has he come from where he used to be? It's I'm not gonna say it's sad, but it is what it is. This says Gen Z for Biden. It says Joe Biden is the only candidate with a serious climate plan, and Marianne Williamson says this is absurd, of course. But I'm not gonna be listening to her about too much, so I believe that's it. All right. That is it. We're going to be signing off. I wanted to see if there was anything else I could glean from anything breaking, but it doesn't look like it. Thank you for everybody watching. I'm going to be signing off. I don't see any super chats. Did a super chat check? Let's check. There's no rant. All right. So thank you everybody for watching, and I am signing off.